It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, broadcasting live from the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois, down here for the Democratic National Convention, which just wrapped up night one. And we've got a whole lot of details to cover for you. Spent about 3 hours down at the Free Palestine rally. It was lovely. Really appreciated being there. I've spent a lot of time at rallies. I attend just about every March for Life and Colorado March for Life and rallies down at the state capitol for school choice. So I've been around a lot of rallies. This one was a little different. We'll give you all the details on that, including ran into Cornell West down there, attending the rally and gave a speech there and then spent some time with the media. And then I just walked around and interviewed folks. And I'm going to share a little bit with you about how the radical left thinks about things, everything from abortion, LGBTQ to Palestine, Israel, wealth disparities, the environment, oil and gas, and all that stuff, policing, racial disparities. It's 3 hours with the radical left. So you don't have to. I'll give you the details on that. And then a big night at the DNC, everyone from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to Hillary Clinton to Jill and Ashley and Joe Biden giving speeches last night as they put a bow on Joe Biden's political career. We've got a lot to cover, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. We'll also hear from the senior White House correspondent for Salem Media, Greg Clugston, the 8 o'clock hour. So absolutely full day providing you all the coverage and details of what's happening here at the Democratic National Convention. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. We're going to catch up on a whole lot today. But first, let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. Jeff, can you hear me?
I can, and it was...
okay, I can't hear myself, so okay.
We got
All
you.
right,
Sound great.
As long as you can hear me, I just wanted to let Billy know that. Hopefully, I'll be able to hear the sound, and I can't wait to hear about your time, Jeff. That's awesome. 62 and clear, expecting a high of 94 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
You know, we have 1,000 billionaires in America. He's promising a bloodbath if he loses, in his words.
As Jeff said, the DNC kicked off in Chicago, and they waited until after 11:30 Eastern to allow old angry Joe to speak. Lies and mistakes. Great way to say goodbye.
Women are not without electoral. Border encounters have dropped over 50%. In fact, there are fewer border crossings today than when Donald Trump left office. Happened. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "There are very fine people on both sides."
Lie.
My God. That's what he said.
God, that's a lie.
That is what he said and what he meant.
No, he didn't.
Oh, from his own chief of staff, the 4-star General John Kelly, that Trump, when in Europe, would not go to the grave sites in one of the France.
Not true.
The brave service members who gave their lives to this country. He called them suckers and losers.
Not
Who in the
true.
hell does he think he is?
Who in the hell?
Who does he think he is?
That was a horrible speech. Absolutely horrible. Before that, Kamala Khan hit the stage, supposedly a surprise, and her husband, Dougie, had such an incredible smile on his face, and so did Kamala Khan, forcing that smile. My jaw hurts just watching it. And Tim, no walls, just ladders, looked like he was constipated, but then he always looks like that. He's a radical leftist. Here comes Kamala to the stage.
Good evening, everyone.
That smile was rocking.
Good evening. Good evening. It is so good to be with everyone this evening in this hall and everyone at home. This is going to be a great week. And I want to kick us off by celebrating our incredible president, Joe Biden.
All right,
Blake,
Yes.
you know what I noticed yesterday was that when she laughs now, she pulls the mic away.
Is that right?
Yep. Watch during the speech, and I bet watch each night if she comes out and does a little bit of the thing, and then on Thursday when she does her big speech,
No
she has
kidding.
been trained now
Yeah.
that cackle that she has, that it's not pulling well with people, so she's
Right.
learning to pull the mic away when she
Wow.
laughs. She didn't cackle yesterday.
I did notice that she kind of toned down the smile a little bit.
Yep.
At times. That's a good point. Very interesting. Does the audio sound okay? Because on this end,
Yeah, sounds great.
I'm not hearing it. Okay, good.
We got it.
Harris backed out of the Fox News debate with former President Trump, apparently scared to debate him on the network. Trump said that comrade Kamala Harris has just informed us that she will not do the Fox News debate on September 4th. He said that I am not surprised by this development because I feel she knows that it is very difficult at best for her to defend her record-setting flip-flopping on absolutely everything she once believed in.
Madam Vice President, Donald Trump agreed to 3 debates. Will you be participating in all 3?
I've always been on record. I am looking forward to debating Donald Trump. If we have a date of September 10th, I hear he is finally committed to it. I'm looking forward.
What about the other 2?
Let's make sure we get this photo of everyone. Look right here, right this.
All right. Trump said he will be doing a town hall event instead with Sean Hannity. There will be 2 presidential debates and 1 vice presidential debate. The Aurora Police Department is teaming up with the Colorado State Patrol and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation to establish an anti-gang violence task force. The formation of the task force is in response to concerns about the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua their presence in the Denver metro area. The task force's main goal is to help local agencies by maximizing resources and sharing information about ongoing investigations. A proposed sales tax increase measure that would raise money for affordable housing in Denver will be on the November ballot. After some negotiating, Denver City Council passed the measure on Monday in a 9-4 vote. If approved by voters, the proposed increase is expected to bring $100,000 a year. In addition to paying for new affordable housing, the money would also go toward existing income qualified housing, rental vouchers, subsidies, down payments, and mortgage assistance. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. NBA head coach Steve Kerr, Warriors head coach, he speaks at the DNC last night.
I know very well that speaking out about politics these days comes with risks.
No, it doesn't. No, not for him. He can speak. He's been speaking out on the left forever. And when he speaks out, nothing happens to him. There may be some people who complain or whatever, but he's not going to lose his job. He will always be the head coach until they have a losing season or 2. So he's wrong there.
I can see the shut up and
By the way, if you're a conservative head coach or a conservative player in the NBA, you don't say anything because you will lose your job or you will be ostracized.
whistle tweets being fired off as we speak. But I also knew as soon as I was asked that it was too important as an American citizen not to speak up in an election of this magnitude. I believe
Oh, you're so heroic. He drives me nuts. It's a lie.
that leaders must tell the truth.
Yeah, I agree with that. So he's saying that Trump doesn't tell the truth, but Biden and Kamala Harris do tell the truth. So that's a total fraud. Can't stand it. Drives me nuts. Rockies at the Nationals tonight at 4:45. 57 in Lakewood, 59 in Aurora, 62 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Monsoonal moisture thins out today, so we're going to be warm with only isolated thunderstorms, low to mid-90s, mid-60s tonight. Low to mid-90s Wednesday, monsoon moisture comes back, thunderstorms increase. Thunderstorm chances are high with highs 80s and low 90s for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So yesterday was a very eventful day as the DNC kicked off all of its activities, decided to head to downtown and to see if I could run into the protesters. Now, Billy, part of the challenge is I'm not on their notification lists.
Yeah, you know we're supposed to be causing problems.
And they don't really post them.
Yeah.
They don't do press releases, all that stuff. So you kind of just have to wander around. So took the train downtown, got off on one side of the United Center and started to walk around. Now, Bill, before I get to the protests, I want to tell you about the security at the United Center.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay.
All right. So I posted a video of this on my social media. All around it for about a half a mile from the United Center, all the way around it, is an 8-foot high steel wall that's anchored to the ground with concrete barriers. And then you have police stationed in groups of, I would say about 7 police officers stationed every 250 feet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well guarded, strong security. Now, I don't blame people for wanting to protect what they love. What I am critical about are all the Democrats who seem to believe that walls don't work, security doesn't work, open borders are important. We're just going to let everybody in. But when we want to host an event and protect ourselves, we're going to build high walls, provide strong security, and protect everybody there. It reeks. And this was the best quote I had yesterday on my Twitter ball from somebody was, the walls are high and the hypocrisy is thick at the Democrat National Convention. So walked down there, saw all that, and then decided to make my way around to try to find the protests. And after a while, I could start to hear them. Now, this was after I had gotten all the way to the other side of the United Center and had walked around the wall. Now, somebody else also posted, by the way, that I should just hop the wall because waiting for me on the other side is free healthcare, free housing, and debit cards, ATM cards. So just hop the wall. It'll all be there for you. So I make my way around and finally start to hear these chants and, that kind of far off sound of somebody on a microphone.
Yeah.
So I walk down there, and by the way, I am set up for like, in my mind, I'm like, this could go real south because you've been hearing for a long time that this was 1968 DNC again, and there's going to be a lot of violence. So I have a GoPro strapped to my chest. I'm wearing like a chest harness with this GoPro on, and that's recording all the time, 100%, because I don't know if I'm going to get like slugged. Yeah. I don't know if somebody's going to come out of somewhere and hit me or anything like that. So I have that, and then I have a separate camera and microphones to go talk to people. So make my way to a park, and I've been to a lot of rallies. It was definitely not nearly as big as the National March for Life in Washington, D.C., which is generally considered to be the largest human rights rally in the world each year. It's a really big deal. And you get kids, Catholic kids from high schools all over the world or all over the country at the National March for Life. This was sizable. It was a good group. It filled the size. It filled up pretty much full a park that was a block by a block by a block. So imagine that park there, and they're hosting a rally there, and they're all chanting and they're giving speeches just like you would here at any other rally. So I make my way there, and one thing I noticed immediately was pretty much everybody wears masks.
Oh, interesting. Wonder why.
Right. Like you yeah, that's right.
Weird.
Right. They're not fully comfortable being out there. And part of me goes, yeah, you're probably on a Fed list if you don't wear a mask. Right. The feds are probably going to put you on a list.
The thing for me is the desire to protest while still trying to maintain your anonymity. I look at that and think that, are you really lending your support and your voice to the project if you're not willing to personally take ownership of it? I question. I think that it is. I'm sorry, but when you come out there and you're masked up and things, I question your motivations. I think you're there, maybe 50% to support the cause and maybe 50% just because you want to cause problems. I disagree that you're really bound to that cause, whatever that cause is. If you have to show up and mask yourself, that's just the way I feel. That if you really feel that strongly that you're going to throw your support behind it, show your face.
I agree with you. But part of me is a little sensitive. And this was what was kind of the weird experience at the end of all of it.
Okay.
Was, how do I put this into words? They're very passionate people.
Yes.
I don't think they're nearly as joyful as the people at the March for Life are, which is just a very positive event. Yeah. Like you have groups of like high school Catholic kids chanting, "We love babies. Yes, we do. We love babies. How about you?" And then a competing high school will go like even louder, "We love babies. Yes, we do." So they were passionate people. They were wrong about a lot of things. I mean, a lot of things.
Oh, I'm sure.
But they weren't wrong about everything. So that's kind of a funny little situation to be in. Oh. Okay. And I'll get to why.
Okay. Yeah. And what they were wrong about.
So, well, there's a lot. That's a big list. Good. But I'm sitting there going, okay, they're all masked. And they're masked, to your point, to hide. And part of me goes, they are probably going to end up on a Fed list. So that's where you have this kind of unique crossover with the complaints of the hard right? That the Fed is out there keeping lists of everybody. And even if you march in the March for Life, you're probably going to end up in a list. Or, you go to a school board meeting, they might write down your license plate. This kind of suspicion of the deep state kind of overlaps the two, which was kind of unique and interesting there. So a lot of masks. They don't shower all that often, Bill. It was one thing that was very clear right at the beginning. Yeah. Right. It was a hot day, and you walk up to this park, and the people you're met with are kind of nice. Yeah. So they said, "Welcome. We have free water. We have free granola bars for you, and we have free sunscreen for you." Nice. And by the way, here's a sign. So they have all the signs are pre-made, and you can just pick them up, and you can just head in there and join your little chant. I would say, gosh, how many people? Maybe maybe 2,000 or 3,000. I'd say maybe 3,000 people there. So imagine like I said, the block by a block by a block park,
a lot of people,
and that was full. And then they have a stage, and they're leading chants up there. And I have some audio of the chants, which will get processed and played for you all. And it was just pure Marxism. And in many ways, it was this kind of Marxist hodgepodge of issues. So you had one lady get up, complain that we are sending money to Israel when we should be funding public abortions, right? She was the pro-choice advocate. Money shouldn't be going to the Jews. It should be going to unrestricted, publicly paid for abortion. Then you get somebody up there, and it was the environment is a big problem. And so the next thing was, the oil and gas companies are raping this country and destroying our resources and all that stuff. And then you get somebody up there about policing, right? And the police don't really protect and serve people. By the way, one of the guys I interviewed was from Aurora.
Oh, wow.
He was part of the Socialist Democratic Students Organization, and he was detailing how he's arrested at Aurora's campus.
Wow.
Okay. And we talked about that whole situation. And in fact, there was a good kind of Aurora campus presence there. In fact, the last speaker was the leader of the Aurora protests that took place in Denver, Colorado. So Colorado well represented at the little Marxist Free Palestine rally. And then, of course, you had the kind of anti-Semitism, anti-Jew type of stuff that took place. One really interesting thing was there was a group of Hasidic Jews, I think that's who they are, that are against the state of Israel. Have you ever run into these people before?
No.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
They're like ultra Orthodox.
Wow.
And they do not agree with the idea of us. It's almost like they're so far to the right.
Yeah.
And so conservative that they almost become anti-Israel. It's, this kind of idea that politics sometimes is this like this circle.
Yep. We've talked about that. Yeah.
So they were there. And
fascinating.
The kind of funny thing was the easiest way to get to the stage was to walk right behind them because all the anti-Semites were staying away from them.
That's funny. That's really funny. That is a weird sense of bedfellows where they're there and they think the state of Israel shouldn't be, and then and there are a whole bunch of people there that would prefer they don't exist at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, not just the state of Israel, just them being alive. They would like to unalive them. It's like, okay, that's weird people to hang out with, but okay, you do you.
It was so bizarre. So I got that. I got some video of those guys, which we'll put on our social media. So you have this really kind of bizarre hodgepodge. So I'm walking through, I got my GoPro on. Everybody's looking at me suspiciously because one, I don't have a mask on.
Yeah.
Two, I'm from the news media and I'm wearing my KNUS shirt, so everybody knows I'm from the news media. And three, I'm recording everything.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
they're like, this guy's a fed.
Yeah.
Which I'm not. My wife, by the way, was like, so are there pictures of you in this march? And I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah. So they went from this.
That's great.
They went from this park to this march, which I'll get to a little bit later.
Yeah.
But I was just walking around. I like walked right up to the stage. Sure, and then walked around. I was taking videos of people, taking videos of signs, all this stuff. I wasn't afraid of anything.
Oh,
and to their credit, I didn't experience any violence in the park. We'll get to a little bit of violence that started to emerge in the march a little bit later in the show. But when the anarchists showed up, which is a different, unique group, because they showed up with bats. And,
oh, wow. It's like, I was like the idea of showing up when they show up in a group. You're kind of like, it doesn't really go with what you're saying here. You don't normally the anarchists aren't necessarily good about coming together and going because that's not really that's not the point. The whole idea.
Do you, man?
Yeah, exactly.
And at one point, so I'm jumping ahead here, but it's worthy because we're talking about it. So at one point, they kind of start to beat up some of the police barricades, and they're like breaking them down and all that stuff. And I just walk right up, and I'm like filming them, like 3 feet from them.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "All right, get together," because they're gonna plan. And so I just walk up and stick my mic in their little huddle.
Yes. Good job.
And they look at me, and they're like, "We got media here," and then they started talking code.
Oh, cool.
And then they went somewhere else to host their little meeting because
Nice.
I stuck a little
Yeah,
mic
I like
right
that.
into the anarchists.
Good job. Very proud of you. I'm
meeting.
so proud of you. Good job.
So,
Yeah.
okay. And then
if they tell you no, you're like, wait, we can't have rules here. This is not about rules. I get to do what I want. You do what you want.
who's calling the meeting
Yeah,
here?
exactly.
And there's clearly a meeting or a
Oh,
leader.
yeah.
There is
Yep,
a
I'm
leader
sure.
of the anarchists.
Yes, that's great.
But what was fascinating about that moment was that the organizers of the pro-Palestinian march, they had people that would put themselves in between the police and the anarchists.
Oh,
So there was
weird.
this type of self-policing.
Yeah.
This was very unique from my perspective. That the because you had heard all the fact that the pro-Palestinians were going to have this big riot rivaling 1968.
Yep.
And they were, at least yesterday, and a lot of the conversations here at the Salem station is whether or not this thing's going to grow over the next 3 days, and the big night's going to be Thursday night. But there was this sense of trying to self-police the event so that the anarchists didn't punch a cop or something, or, trigger something.
Yeah. Oh,
So
that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, that was really fascinating. So I'll finish with this for this segment. So I'm walking around the event, and then I see there's a big group of people around a person, and I'm like, I wonder who that is. So I walk over there, and it's Cornel West, the professor from Princeton University, who's running for president of the United States. He had been speaking at the rally earlier before I got there. And he was just working his way through the crowd, lots of fans, lots of people taking selfies, and then he's recording videos, endorsing candidates, all that stuff. So he was kind of the rock star.
That's cool.
This is what I'm trying to process here, Billy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a fair comparison, but I'm going to run with it. And maybe you all can text in or call and tell me I'm wrong on this. They reminded me a lot of libertarians.
Interesting. How?
They really, so I would ask them, like, are you going to support Kamala, right? Like during the march? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. She has abandoned democratic principles.
Yeah.
She's sold out to the billionaire class. We are only going to win if we stand on our principles.
Oh, wow.
And the party learns they need to adjust to us to earn our vote.
That sounds so familiar.
Doesn't that sound so familiar?
Yes, that sounds so familiar. Yeah.
So that's where I'm. And it's not fair to even really lump libertarians in with the nuttiness that I had to deal with there, because I interviewed just straight up communists, race baiters, people that hated the police, all that stuff. So in a big way, they're not anywhere close to the libertarians, who I think are much more reasonable people.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to that issue, that they believe they are going to pull the party their way by standing purely on principle, and refusing to endorse it. And I asked them straight up, well, aren't you just handing your vote to Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Just like we would ask the libertarians that, or anybody else. And they believe in the long run, they have to stand on principle first, even if it's a crazy principle, but that they're going to eventually pull their party, and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have to win their vote. So they had big signs. They had big paper mache Kamala Harris and Bibi Netanyahu and Joe Biden, like floats and all this stuff. Is crazy. I'll get into the actual march and some of the conversations I had, including conversation with the Communist Party that was here, what they hope to achieve. And they finally answered the question for me, Billy.
Yes.
What country has done communism well?
Oh, I can't wait to hear their answer.
They actually
That'll
have
be
an
interesting.
answer for that.
I'm sure they do. Let's see if it holds up.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll continue. Feel free to give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710KNUS app. We'll continue with coverage of the Free Palestine rally at the DNC, as well as last night's speeches, all coming up, including a conversation with the senior White House correspondent for Salem Media. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. I'm live in the Windy City, Chicago. Wrapped up a wild day down at the Democrat National Convention. We're going to get to Hillary and Jill and Ashley and Joe's speech a little bit later in the show. But I also spent about 3 hours attending the Free Palestine rally downtown. Now, not a lot of violence yesterday, which was a little interesting. Kind of caught me off guard because they all tended to be pretty polite-ish. Yeah. I noticed they weren't nearly as joyful as when you get the Catholic kids together for the March for Life, but they weren't beating up a lot. There was a little bit of attacking a fence that took place yesterday, but the big riots we haven't seen yet. They tried last night to set up tents, and the Chicago police didn't allow that to happen.
Oh, good.
There have been tons of police everywhere. On this. So I think they're doing a good job keeping peace and order right now. So you haven't seen the big riots taking place yet. So they held this big rally at this park, and then they went for a march. And the march was probably a mile, maybe not quite that much, to just outside the United Center. There's another park over there, and that's where they were going to do some more speeches. Billy, what was interesting to me on this was the amount of police presence and media presence. Okay.
Yeah. I've seen some of the media credentials. I've got more than like 15,000 members of the media there. That is crazy.
It was wild. I don't know his name. He's on Good Morning America or something. Anyways, he like walked right by me. I was like, hey, I recognize you. Billy, this was the point I wanted to make about this. The March for Life has got to be 60,000, 70,000 people. I think some years it gets up to nearly 100,000 people. This was probably less than 5,000 at its peak. And the amount of media coverage between the two was night and day, right? The March for Life, nobody covers except for little pro-life outlets and Catholic news agencies and stuff like that. Yeah. Here it was everybody. I mean, you had Asian reporters, you had the major networks there, you had reporters from India I saw there. I mean, everybody was covering it. And I think partly because they're in town and you have the DNC and they're covering all of those activities. But it was a circus. It was a wild circus. So the way the march worked was you had all the Palestinians, Free Palestine people lining up with their little banners and their signs and some of their paper mache BB with like Benjamin Netanyahu with fangs and like blood dripping and stuff like that. Paper mache.
The big thing when you're talking about the paper mache thing is, I'm curious, did they do that at home, or is there some place we can order that? I'm just curious. Is there a paper mache outlet that we can get different heads? I don't know, but I'm just curious. Okay, go ahead.
And then you have all these little different groups. So it'd be like the socialists from New York, and then the communists from Florida, and then a student group from Arizona, and they all have their little banners and stuff, and they're all going to march together. So they all line up in a big line, and then you have police that are guarding the sides. So police for a mile on bikes.
Wow.
One by one, using their bikes to prevent people from like getting on the sidewalk or off the sidewalk. So it was like they created a channel for these protesters to watch or to walk. And then the media, including myself, were right in the front. So imagine probably 500 to 600 people with cameras, microphones, all walking in front of these protesters.
That's funny.
And then they're all with, the protesters all have megaphones and they're banging drums and all this stuff. So it was a big hippie parade. It was a big, smelly, Marxist hippie parade.
That's funny. And of course, they got the attention because these protests elsewhere had caused problems. So that's why the media was there.
Right.
Yeah, the kids of the March for Life, they're not breaking into the buildings and taking anything over. However, these fools have done in the past. So that's interesting. That'd have been fascinating to see the big cluster of media, like almost like scurrying in front of them before the march comes, almost like a bunch of ants. That would have been real interesting. Yeah.
And then walking along and getting pictures. I got one picture of a police officer with a Palestinian flag like flying over him, because it's just the just the moment, the historic moment was kind of a unique juxtaposition. I probably have 125 separate video files from yesterday.
Wow.
So
we'll
have to pull it all together when we're not trying to also cover the speeches.
Exactly.
But so far, no real big protests in the sense of violence. No violence taking place in the city of Chicago. The police are on top of it. The walls are high. The barricades are thick. Just goes to show you that when you use a strong police presence and build high walls, you can protect what you love.
Now, you were talking about the communists, and they said they had a place where they said the communism worked. I'm curious, where did they say that it worked? Because the weird part is you have lots and lots of examples of where capitalism is working. So I'm curious, since they think that is a better system, one, why haven't more places tried it and made it so successful? And two, where did they point to that they felt it was successful?
So once the march started, and I got lots of pictures and videos of all the crazy chants, from the river to the sea type of stuff. I then decided I'm going to switch over and we're just going to walk and talk to people. So I go around the big mobs at the front and I just work my way into the back. And I just started to walk with a little microphone and start to ask people. And I say, hi, my name's Jeff. I'm with 710K in US. Can you tell me why you're here? Some people didn't want to talk. Others did. And one of them was the communists of New York. And so they had a little sign. They were avowed communists with the fist and the sickle and the hammer and all that stuff. And I'm like, all right,
these
communists.
Are fun. Yes.
Why isn't Kamala with you? And we got into a conversation about communism and how he became a communist. And then I asked him that fateful question that communists always get asked, right? Because they go into this kind of diatribe about America and imperialism and why it doesn't work and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, where has it worked? Where has communism worked? And he goes, well, we've learned from each iteration and we get better and better at it, but it has worked in China.
Mm-hmm.
That was his example.
When in China? That's the question, is on the timeline, because you have to, to go back to a purer form of communism, you'd have to go back to Mao. And then it begins to evolve after that because of the following leadership and how they created things. And so communism doesn't China have a financial market? That's not allowed. You can't trade stocks or anything in a communist socialist system. You can't have that. That shouldn't exist.
His argument was that it was the communist system that brought this massive country out of poverty.
Okay, well, the thing is, I can see an argument with what they did as far as rural Chinese. I can see that as far as getting them lifting up their standard of living, but it stagnated. And it wasn't until they started leaning into profit motive or things that are more associated with capitalism that they saw the economy really boom. They did an acceptable job, but it wasn't as if they were going to be competing on a global stage. They wouldn't have that kind of a GDP until they leaned into capitalism. Even right now, while there is government oversight, the companies get to keep their own profits, which again is something that's not really allowed in communism. It would be funneled off into the government.
They killed a hell of a lot of people in order to form that government.
Yeah.
And you talk to any pastor there, and there's no functioning free church. No. You have restrictions on internet. You have restrictions on your speech. You have this bizarre social credit system.
Yeah.
It's a miserable place.
Yeah, which would all be communism. That would be all that, all leaning into that. Yeah, but the thing is, right. And the only thing that gave them the success is when they actually leaned into the profit motive. I mean, that's as far as overwhelming success. That's why they saw the boom. Until they did that.
And the idea of self-motivation and earnings and all that stuff
it's like
comes from it.
One of the largest subsidies, and we talk about this as far as EVs, is the BYD, the Chinese company that's coming out and basically decimating a lot of EV sales in other countries. And what the government did is give them tons and tons of money and subsidize them. The government doesn't run BYD. They let the smart people go and run it. and say, here, we'll just give you all this money and support you, and then allow you to have this competitive advantage in this market because of all the free government money. So that's some of the reason that Elon Musk and Tesla started out so well and did well early on. Same exact system, same thing, getting government credits, getting government subsidies. Yes, that's why BYD is becoming one of the largest auto manufacturers on the planet. Not because the Chinese government decided how to run the company, what cars to make. Yes, exactly. They listened to the market, and that's why the company succeeded. They did do a bunch of subsidies, but they allowed capitalism to let the company grow. So yeah, it's again, too bad for the communists.
We're up against a break, and we got You Choose the News next. In the 7 o'clock hour, I had conversations with Jews that were marching in the Free Palestine, as well as Palestinians marching in the Free Palestine. And
that's different.
Man, that dissolved into bizarre conspiracy theories about Israel very, very quickly. We'll get to that and more.
I can't wait.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're going to get back to Chicago here in just a second. But Billy, I spent all afternoon with leftist Palestinians, and then I spent all evening listening to the Democrat National Convention. Can I please have some You Choose the News?
Yes.
I just feel a little lighthearted.
It is time for the palate cleanser of our dark and dismal morning. It's what we call You Choose the News. It's everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. I spent moments this morning scouring the interweb looking for dumb stories about us humans, and then gave them already close headlines for this radio news game. Why? So we can start paying attention to ours. We are going to do as much as we can. All right, we appreciate everything along. It's going to be Playful Cinema Newsroom and Jeff Hunt live from Chicago. Okay, gentlemen, here are your headlines today. Headline number 1, Hidden Hitler. Headline number 2, Shared Commitment. Headline number 3, Extra Itinerary. And headline number 4, Artificial Criminals.
Let's start with artificial criminals.
Yeah, artificial criminals. Recently, a judge has ruled that certain AI companies like Movie AI, Midjourney, Runway AI, and others can be sued for copyright infringement. They are AI companies doing art. The problem is they stole the original from about 4,700 different artists. And just because you use what humans created and then make it your own doesn't mean you own it, nor is it original. So basically, they're saying that the AI art can be sued for copyright infringement. And the weird part is this AI machine is supposed to be so very smart. Oddly, nobody's asked the AI machine to write a legal brief to get around copyright law. That is not something they've been able to do yet. So, yeah.
That's a good one, Billy.
All right. Hey, Blake Olson, your choice this morning, sir. Hidden Hitler, shared commitment, or check your itinerary?
Let's go with shared commitment.
Yes, shared commitment. Ontario woman says she should not be on the hook for $15,000 in unpaid wages because she never owned the funeral home in the first place. Yes. Now, Stephanie Brown, 30 years old, was married to Adam McDowell. Adam was the owner of the funeral home, but she's not listed on the title deed. Or is she? Unbeknownst to her, her ex, Mr. Adam, put her name on the deed. It's not her signature. She didn't sign it. But Ontario judge don't care. Said that, yes, because you are on the title, even though Adam skipped town and no one can find him right now, you now need to pay the $15,000 in back wages. Happy anniversary. That's going to be a great one. So
they were married, and then he just bailed on the whole thing.
Yeah, bailed on the whole thing. And
so he
put
was a funeral director?
Yes. He was a funeral, I know, and just bailed on the whole thing and put her name down on the deed without telling her. The weird part is it's not even her signature. And they're like, who cares? You were married. Doesn't matter.
A little frightening.
Exactly. All righty. Final choice this morning, Mr. Hunt. Hidden Hitler or check your itinerary?
Let's do the Hidden Hitler, I guess.
Yes. I know there's a little trepidation in your voice there.
Lose.
I felt like I marched with a lot of them yesterday.
Exactly. That's why it was kind of on theme here. That's why I found this. We're traveling to East Lansing, Michigan for this one. The Michigan State University Board of Regents is facing a federal lawsuit after Adolf Hitler's picture appeared in a pre-game trivia quiz on giant video boards during pre-game warm-ups at a football game last season. So on the big giant video screens, they're having the fans play along and having some fun, and whoo, hey, there's Hitler. What happened? Well, the Michigan University Board of Regents says it has to do with this certain media company. They make these quizzes, and we were using them, and it's their fault that Hitler popped up.
We didn't look at it ahead of time.
And well, the media company says you didn't even look at it. You didn't even sign a contract. We don't have a contract with you. You stole the game. You took the game from us. We have nothing that says you guys were allowed to run this game. So it looks like the Michigan State stole the quiz game they wanted to play before the football game, and nobody did the research to figure out whether or not Hitler. I mean, really, guys, you steal the quiz game that has Hitler in it? Do better.
No
Seriously,
doubt.
come on.
Really?
Yeah, who's in charge of theft anyway? That's just ridiculous.
Kidding.
Yeah.
It's one way to get busted. That's for sure.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, that's it. That is all the time we have for You Choose the News. As always, Jeff and Blake are winners, and I'm a big giant loser. Back to you, Mr. Hunt.
All right. When we return, we'll continue our coverage of the, quote, Free Palestine rally, unquote, that's taking place at the DNC. It's just a hodgepodge of Marxist thought. I'll give you more updates and more live from Chicago. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Seven a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, broadcasting from the Democrat National Convention in Chicago, along with Billy Thorpe back in Denver, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center. And believe me, oftentimes we joke crazy. Absolutely, definitely crazy. Okay. And I'm gonna get in what it's like to walk next to and interview pro-Palestinian marchers at the Democrat National Convention, because this is a different breed, Billy.
Yeah.
These are the real serious kind, right?
They are the true believers. Yeah.
They have traveled across the country to stand outside the DNC and yell and wave their fist in the air at Kamala Harris and Joe Biden as to why they don't hate the Jews enough.
I know.
So it is.
You're not hating these people enough. Why don't you want them dead like I do? It is such a weird thing to protest. Of all the things that you're going to protest and be angry about, It's the existence of this group of people. It's a really weird thing to do. Well, it explains why they're all wearing masks. So
And
what are you gonna do?
when we come back from the news with Blake Nelson, I asked one question that stumped them all, or at least revealed their bias to the point where they kind of held back their true, honest opinions.
Nice.
I'll get to that in a second. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that. That's awesome. 64 and sunny, expecting a high of 94 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
There are very fine people on both sides. My God. That's what he said. That is what he said and what he meant.
No, he didn't. Come on, JoJo. The DNC kicked off in Chicago, and they waited until after 11:30 Eastern to allow old angry Joe to speak. Had to have, I think it was one of his worst speeches ever. It had to have been.
The brave service members who gave their lives to this country, he called them suckers and losers. Who in the hell does he think he is?
Didn't.
Who does he think he is? They're the ones we're going to bring back. That's not hyperbole. It's because Medicare no longer has to pay those exorbitant prices to the big pharma. It's Republicans, Democrats. We saved democracy in 2020, and now we must save it again in 2024.
Of course you did.
You
Blake,
know we have 1,000.
Go ahead, please.
No,
continue.
go ahead. One.
I was going to say,
blessing that you're going to interrupt.
I'm coming to the realization that I'm just surrounded by a lot of angry, yelling people. So you're outside the DNC, you have the fist shaking. You don't hate the Jews enough. And then inside the DNC, you have the, my God, he kept saying it all throughout his speech. Exactly. What is wrong? My God. He would just yell. It
was uncomfortable, man. Just watch. I mean, the audio's bad enough, but you watch it, it is brutal.
It was, Blake, you were exactly right. It's one of his worst speeches he's ever given. It was really long after, and maybe just because I'd spent the whole day dealing with these protesters, that I was just exhausted. But I was so tired. And then you just have the angry man from The Simpsons yelling at the moon. I mean,
that's what it looked like.
Terrible.
It was horrible. All right. So what did CNN and Jake Tapper think of day one as Jeff was walking the streets?
To be honest, on the East Coast, the second day of the Democratic National Convention, I'm not the first one to observe.
It is late, which is
rather late.
Very notable, I think, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it is fair to say that the Republicans had a tighter ship.
You can say that again. Kamala Khan has backed out of the Fox News debate with former President Trump. Apparently, Trump said, quote, Comrade Kamala Harris has just informed us that she will not do the Fox News debate on September 4th. He said it would be difficult for her on Fox News because she's flip-flopped on everything.
Madam Vice President, Donald Trump agreed to 3 debates. Will you be participating in all 3?
I've always been on record. I am looking forward to debating Donald Trump, and we have a date of September 10th. I hear he's finally committed to it. I'm looking forward.
What about the other 2?
Let's make sure we get this photo of everyone. Look right here, right there.
Okay, so Trump said that he will be doing a town hall event instead with Sean Hannity. There will be 2 presidential debates and 1 vice presidential debate. U.S. Representative Jamie Raskin, he completely freezes on stage at the DNC as his teleprompter appears to fail on him. The video is even better, but here is the audio.
Someone should have told Donald Trump that the president's job under Article 2 of the Constitution.
Wait for it.
Someone should have told Donald Trump that the president's job under Article 2 of the Constitution is to take care that the laws are faithfully executed, not that the vice president.
Someone should have told Jamie that the teleprompter may fail during the speech. Jeff has more ahead from Chicago. In Larimer County this morning, a woman allegedly with a gun was shot by deputies after an early morning chase through the county. The sheriff's office said that a deputy spotted a vehicle on Highway 402 and East Frontage Road. It looked through the records and found that the owner, a woman, had a warrant and a revoked license. The sheriff's office said the deputy activated his lights and sirens in order to initiate a traffic stop, but the woman refused to pull over. Several deputies pursued the woman, who eluded them for several miles through West Loveland. She finally stopped 14 miles from where they deployed tire spikes. She was going over 100 miles an hour at one point. She got out of the vehicle armed with a gun, and two deputies fired and struck the woman. No word on her condition. Kroger says that they'll invest $1 billion to reduce grocery prices if the proposed merger with Albertsons goes through. The company has also promised a $1 billion investment in employee wages and benefits and $1.3 billion to enhance customers' experience at Albertsons stores. The PGA is in town, the BMW Championship at Castle Pines. First round, of course, is on Thursday. Rockies at the Nationals tonight, 4:45 first pitch. It is 60 in Arvada, 61 in Parker, 64 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on Tuesday. Jeff is in Chicago. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Monsoonal moisture thins out today, so we're going to be warm with only isolated thunderstorms, low to mid-90s, mid-60s tonight. Low to mid-90s Wednesday, monsoon moisture comes back, thunderstorms increase. Thunderstorm chances are high with highs 80s and low 90s for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Want to really thank Branch Planning for allowing us to be out here in Chicago. It's a wild see where John McCain and Sarah Palin and that whole experience was working for a film put out by David Zucker at the time. Remember the guy who did Airplane?
Oh, yeah.
He made a movie making fun of the left and Michael Moore. And so we were out promoting the film.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic.
So this is a unique experience. Attended a lot of the Free Palestine activities yesterday. There was a big rally in a park, and then we marched and all that stuff. And I talked a little bit about what the rally was like, but I want to talk about what it was like to march with these folks yesterday and some of the questions that I had. So there were Jews present, and I talked to them about supporting Israel and whether or not Israel has a right to defend itself. But the question that gave them pause as to whether or not they were ready to fully reveal their position was whether or not Hamas was justified in its activities on October 7th.
Ooh, good question. Good question.
That was one that really kind of put them in a place where they went, because they believe that Israel is a terrible country.
Yeah.
They believe it is led by terrible people. They believe it is active in genocide. They believe that Israel has imprisoned all these Palestinians, right? And all I did was ask them whether or not October 7th was justified. Now, there was this big element, Billy, of conspiracy theorists.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
They're
kind of
always fun.
crazy, right? Like October 7th was a psyop.
Wow.
That Israel did it to itself to justify a war against Hamas, to finish off the Palestinian people, that was the whole point of this thing. There was actually a person that believed that.
Wow.
Okay. And I needed to go read the Intifada websites, which I'm not going to go read, but that's where they encouraged me to go read.
That's
okay?
weird because Hamas is taking credit for it, but okay.
Right.
That's weird, but okay. Yeah.
One aspect that was incredibly offensive to me, and I just had to control myself because I've seen the videos.
Yeah.
No rape took place.
Oh.
No murder of innocent civilians took place. There were no babies put in ovens.
Oh, wow.
And that the Jews made it all up. It was actually the Jews that have done this to the Palestinians.
Oh. Did you ask him where those people are then?
Yeah, right. Right.
There's some people that no longer are coming home to the houses where they lived. Where'd they go? Where are the people? Where'd they put them? What'd you do with the people? I mean, again, if it's just all pretend, where are they? That was always the question I had with the Alex Jones crisis actors thing.
If
they were crisis actors.
In Sandy Hook, the Sandy Hook stuff.
Yeah, show me where else they're crisis acting. Show me where else that you have this person doing this. Show me where else this has been, because it seems weird they would just pop up and do this one thing. They if you're good at this, you do it a number of different times, you'd think. So it's like the idea of, if they're not really dead, where are they? Or where are you keeping them? Because you got to figure out then, because that would be your next question. If you really truly believe this, then you got to say, well, they're keeping them where? Oh, well, yeah, continue with the stupidity.
Well, and they also believe that Israel would rather assassinate and kill their own people, so that's where they are, than have them be hostages. And so they were flying airplanes. I'd never heard this, and I don't think it's true at all. But during the attack, they were bombing cars that were driving hostages back to kill their own people rather than have them become hostages and have to negotiate with Hamas.
Okay, question from the back of the class. How would they know that the hostages are in those cars? That would be the unusual thing, is the idea. But then again, if it was just a psyop, then who are they killing? Again,
exactly.
That's the part.
I mean,
that's the twisted thing in this, is the idea of the conspiracy theories don't hold up because they disagree with each other. That's weird. Yeah, that's a weird one, man.
It's a weird group of people.
Yes.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. And as I mentioned, they mask themselves. They're not necessarily willing to be open about who they are, all that stuff. So the entire situation is bizarre. But here's the question I have for our listeners. I would love your thoughts on this. 303-696-1971. I talked about this in the first hour. This is a hodgepodge of basic Marxist thinking. And what do I mean by Marxist thinking? If you read the first opening page of the Communist Manifesto, all of history is oppressor versus oppressed. So they look at everything through that worldview. Okay. The LGBT community's been oppressed by oppressors. Oppressors are destroying the environment. The police are oppressors against Black people. So that is the matrix by which they look at everything, and everything's put into it. And then they get a big rally going and they march outside the Democrat National Convention. Here's my question. Are these people closely aligned with the Democrat Party? Do you look at them and go, this is just an offshoot of Democrat Party thinking, right? Because last night, Joe Biden says the people out there have a point. Okay, so he referenced the people outside marching. Are these people in the same sphere as the Democrat Party? This type of lunacy, this type of communist thinking, this type of oppressor versus oppressed. They're just more extreme, and they're out there because they want to pull the Democrat Party that direction to abandon the Jews. to support Palestine, not because they think Palestine is this great free ideology, but because they put the Jews and the Palestinians in this oppressor versus oppressed matrix. So they're always going to stand with the oppressed, and the Jews are the great oppressors.
Yeah.
Is this a feature of the Democrat Party or a bizarre offshoot of the Democrat Party that should be ignored because they're just a bunch of radicals and the smart people are actually inside the building? What do you think? 303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Look, I'd like to talk to you about my good friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. This guy is pro-life, pro-family, and pro-America. That matters because if you get hit or injured in an injury case, car wreck, you don't just want to hire some guy on a billboard, right? You want somebody that's going to reflect your values. That's Dan Caplis. And it's important because it tells everybody else involved in the case that you're serious about this. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer. He's also a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. So, Billy, here's the question I was asking about whether or not they're kind of in the same sphere as the Democrat Party and offshoot. Here's a flyer I got yesterday. If you're on the webs, here's a flyer I got yesterday. Boycott the elections, build the revolutionary movement, and reconstitute the Communist Party. Join our discussion on the election boycott, Chinatown Library, August 31st at 2 p.m.
Well, at least they're in Chinatown. I'm just saying, thematically, makes sense. It'd be weird if they were somewhere else.
I'm out there with the communists. I'm out there with the pro-Palestinians. I'm out there with the anti-Semites. I'm out there with the police are terrible.
Yeah, just for a second, I got to tell
what
you,
do you think?
The idea on that flyer that they're like the communists are saying, "Don't vote." That's kind of a theme. There's a theme there.
Do you think there's an overlap with another group?
Just a little bit, yes.
So, do you think this is indicative of the direction of the Democrat Party, or are these just a bizarre offshoot that's not really impacting the party? And they're throwing a tantrum outside while the adults are actually in the room. Give me a call, 303-696-1971. Billy, can you give them the text number? I don't have that pulled up, unfortunately.
Yes, it is 720-892-6757. 720-892-6757.
We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, broadcasting live from the Democrat National Convention here in Chicago. Spent yesterday down at this bizarre pro-Palestinian, Marxist, anti-Jewish rally that took place
with a bunch of Hasidic Jews.
That's the part
that to me is the idea that there are Hasidic Jews there protesting Israel next to a bunch of protesters that would love to throw them off a tall building or drown them in the water.
I mean,
weird,
it's kind of there's a little bit of the kind of queers for Palestine type of element going on there, where you're like, there's a lot of people here that wouldn't want you to exist.
Don't want you,
and I think it is in part. I don't know if this is totally true, but I think it is, and I think it's this overlap of kind of extreme religious commitment, that it's the kind of liberal democracy side of Israel that they really don't like.
Yeah.
Right. This is the same group that doesn't want Christians to be able to proselytize in Israel. They run these bills. They run these bills that it's like, no, we're going to be a purely Jewish state. And so I think there's that element. I could be wrong, but give me a call if I am. 303-696-1971. But my question is this an element of the broader Democratic Party movement, or are these kind of the outcasts? I mean, they're literally outside the building.
Yeah.
They are outcasts. But is the Democrat Party, the modern Democrat Party, moving in this direction? Because that's their point. That's their mission, is to kind of pull the Democrats this way. All my conversations. Are you going to vote for Kamala Harris? Absolutely not. Or, well, maybe if she comes our way a little bit, but she continues to support Israel. Absolutely not. So they're trying to pull the Democrat Party this way. Is the Democrat Party going to break in their support of Israel? That is why they're there. That's why these people, these protesters, are at the DNC and they weren't at the RNC.
Yeah.
Because the RNC would just look at them and go, sawed off. It's like, you're, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're not going to change us. We're totally committed to Israel. But the idea that that the Democrats may break and abandon Israel is a potential, or at least something that's achievable in the next decade. That's why they're protesting there. So is this a bigger part of the problem with the Democrat Party? Are they becoming anti-Semitic? Are they becoming Marxist? Are they becoming anti-police? Are they becoming radical pro-aborts, which is everything that was covered there yesterday?
Yeah.
Or is this just a fluke? Let's go to the phones. Marcus, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Marcus.
Hey, how you doing, Jeff?
I'm great. Surviving this place.
Well, Al Capone was the first lobbyist in Chicago. He was an independent.
I believe it. I believe it. It's the home birthplace of political corruption.
So when I vote, I always look at this, and you can look at a lot of things. But when I vote, I'm voting for my interests.
Right.
I got to protect myself. So if it was Democrat or Republican, it's what's on the table. And a lot of people, they don't see that. They live in a party or something. But you got kids, you got, a lot of things around you and everything. Take care of. So when I vote, I just vote for my special interests. And
Marcus,
it's like a lobbyist.
I think a lot of people think that way. But Marcus, I got to tell you about last night's speech. I brought up this over and over again during the commentary. Everybody gets up there. I mean, to a T, everybody got up there and talked about how they have worked from humble beginnings and achieved greatness, right? You are on the main stage of a major party event, broadcast to the entire world to see, right? And everybody, I came from humble position, Scranton Joe, to a T. Everybody was like that. So they achieved the American dream. And
but if you watch what they did,
but then they want to
look
reform.
bad.
Marcus, they want to reform America. So America works for them. They achieved it, and yet they believe America is fundamentally flawed and needs to be changed and is inherently racist and misogynistic. That I didn't get. I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm going to tell you this. My vote already went with Trump because I listened to their side. I saw Harris look so good grown up in all the videos and the pictures, and she's a fighter, but there's nothing there. It's like, Joe, what's there?
It'll be really interesting. I mean, the marketing is good, though. The marketing is really, really good because when she walked in, yeah, exactly. When she walked out on stage last night, there was so much energy and excitement and people in the room going nuts. And I'm just going, she hasn't accomplished a lot. She really hasn't. Look,
the vice president had tears in his eyes. Did you see that? I'm like, oh my God, this is better than the movie. Give me some popcorn.
And Marcus, I still cannot get over this with Joe Biden. Here's a guy they literally took out back and stabbed when it comes to his political career. They pulled the Caesar. You remember the op-eds in the New York Times and the Washington Post. You need to step aside. What are you doing? You're going to cause us to lose to Trump. You're going to fail democracy, all this stuff. They were going to do it the nice way, or they were going to do it the hard way. They got right up to the line where they were going to do it the hard way. The Democrat establishment, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries.
You saw it. There was Pelosi there clapping for him, and that's the one that put the knife in his back.
I mean, Marcus, could you imagine going through that whole thing 6 weeks ago? Them talking about how he was that Joe Biden was going to tank this election. He was terrible. And then because you withdrew, not on your own belief, but because you were literally forced out by the party bosses, then to walk into a room where they celebrate you.
Yeah, and they said, we want Joe.
Right. No, we love Joe.
Could you imagine that?
I thought it was thank you, Joe. I think they were chanting thank you, Joe. And I believe, and whether or not you believe it or not, but Biden did address that in the speech. He said that he put party and the country over person. So that was the reason he said that he stepped aside. And I understand the idea of the Democrat Party machinery, but if Biden didn't want to go, there would be nothing the Democrat Party machinery could really do about it because those delegates were pledged to him. That unless he releases them, the party function, he could go, if they try to push him out and say, no, we're going to do something else, the delegates, etc. He could file lawsuits based on the bylaws of how they are choosing the nominee. But since Biden made the announcement and released the delegates, that's why they are free to choose Harris without the same rigmarole and do the other crap that they have to do. So it was managed, but
what do you think of Biden, Billy? Really? I mean, this was terrible. I mean,
the speech is horrible. Yeah, and he's been awful for quite some time. But I think that Biden should have done the transitionary thing. He talked about being a transitionary president, and I think he should have. They should have had a Democrat primary, and they should have gone through the process, and he should have bowed out really much, much, much earlier. However, the odd thing about this is because of the way it happened, it has given the Democrats a tactical advantage against Republicans. And it's completely and totally unintentional. But tactically, it has worked out better than the Democrats ever could hope because, one, Trump spent all the time, last 3.5 years, campaigning against Joe Biden. From the day that Trump left that White House, it was about how Biden's awful and everything else and destroying America. And so that 3.5 years of attack pretty much evaporates at this point, especially about the old and the age and doddering. All that goes away. And you have excitement of a new chapter. And that's something the Democrats are having right now. Now, I don't know if they can continue the party. Basically, in my mind, the Democrats feel like they are the cool kids on campus or the cool frat house that is having the really neat party. And everyone sees all the excitement inside and is curious about joining. And so far, they haven't had to actually tell everybody what the frat wants to do or why you're pledging. Yeah. But it's a big
central
party.
Plan.
Yes. And if they can continue this feeling of a party this week and continue it for another couple of weeks and not have to deal with any issues, it is a huge tactical advantage because of the compressed time frame. If this was a 2-year run for Harris, she's got some serious problems over the course of 2 years. 100 days, that's a different story. And again, totally unintentional.
Billy, I disagree with the idea that this was Joe Biden's idea. I think there's lots of reporting out there from Politico and others.
No, I'm not saying that it was his idea. I never said it was his idea, but I disagree that they came and they shot him because he had to make that decision. He had to say, okay, I'll step aside.
It was starting to get real public real pressure. Politico's reporting that Nancy Pelosi, Schumer, and Hakeem Jeffries were going to do it the easy way or the hard way. And when George Clooney came out with his opinion piece, that was the signal that this is going to get really ugly and really public if he didn't back down. So the idea that he did this to save this country or to pay for patriotism or whatever, no. They were going to pull out whatever they could out of the closet. You start to see that around kind of the New York Times reporting about Hunter Biden and special interest deals and all that stuff. They had stuff ready to go. I think that they were going to put a tremendous amount of pressure as they could to get him out.
Oh yeah, they would. But the pressure, out, everyone thinks, oh, we're going to uncover these scandals. If the scandals were there, they would have been uncovered. The pressure was the donors. That's where the worm turned, is when Clooney was announcing that the checkbooks were going to close because Trump all of a sudden was raising a ton of money. And that's when the Democrats start freaking out. That's where they're like, and I believe Nancy Pelosi is absolutely the heavy. And she was going to say, hey, we are going to do this, and this is the next, and we need to do it. But the decision, from what I've seen of the reporting, at the core of it, at the end, it had to be Biden's because of the delegates.
No, I mean, it did.
So he had to step away himself.
But it was, I don't think it was his idea originally.
Oh, no, it wasn't his idea at all. They've done the reporting over the weekend. And there's a conversation that he comes down. And they talk about the fact that what changed him, as far as his perspective, was the fact that Trump's out there doing the RNC, and he's in bed with COVID, and he understands that there's a moment of frailty that, from the reporting that I've read, that he's like, I don't think I can. Maybe they're right. He had this faith in himself, but because he's laying there and he's in bed and he can't go out and he can't campaign, he can't even do his job of being president, that he's like, maybe I can't do this one. And the story is that he comes down the next morning and says, okay, if I do this, what am I going to say? So again, he's not the one that says, hey, I need to go. He absolutely was pushed out the door. Absolutely was. But he did have to make the decision himself rather than them just stabbing him in the back and throwing him over the board.
And do you still find last night kind of weird? Like, we've all had those employment opportune moments where it's like, we're not going on your reconnaissance. We're going to go on somebody else's. And then to celebrate. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. We love you. It came across as so cringe. And we'll get into his actual speech and Hillary's speech and Ashley Biden and AOC and all that stuff yesterday, which was crazy. But that was an interesting night, and it's only going to get weirder. I also got a question for you guys.
I appreciate you.
Marcus, appreciate it. When is Jared Polis going to speak?
Yeah, I wonder.
And if he doesn't, is he not on the inside with the current Democrat Party?
Yeah, is he not? Is he outside of it? Because this is one of those where you try out someone for another run. Yeah, and there are going to be some audition slots. So, the other question that I've got is, when does Barack speak? I think that's the really big one because we talked about it earlier. I still say that he's the guy. If I was scheduling it, he's the guy that hands off to Kamala. That's the power.
I think that would be a power move.
Yeah. That's the one that's going to get all the attention. And that's the idea. In fact, I hit something yesterday. It was kind of bounced around in the back of my head where there was I was listening to a podcast, and they were going on and on about the Barack Obama's really running the White House and things like that right now. And oh my gosh, how can people stand this? And it hit me. Because there are some of our listeners do believe that Obama's behind the scenes in the White House running everything. Obama is one of the most popular presidents we've had in our lifetimes. If he really was running things, why wouldn't you announce that? Why wouldn't you lean into that and go, you know, that guy you really liked, he's really running stuff back here. The guy that you don't like, me, old Grandpa Joe, I'm not doing the stuff. He is. You like him better than me anyway, so why not? It was a weird play. They were so upset about the idea of Obama running the White House in the background. I keep thinking, if that was true, I'd lean into that as far as marketing. I absolutely would lean into that one.
Do you think he left? Do you think he left that popular? Obviously,
yes, he is.
You get popular now, but
yeah. He was very, very popular. He would have, in that, if he would have been able to run for a third term, he would have beaten Trump. Yeah, he was. He absolutely was. Oh yeah, based on the numbers at that point, yes, he absolutely would have. Yeah. Hands down. I put $10,000 down on that in Vegas at that point in time. Yeah.
We don't have a list of who's speaking tonight. We don't have a list of we have a general idea of what the theme's going to be, but there's no list tonight that comes out. Let's see. Yesterday it came out at 3:30. Yeah. So they're doing what the RNC does. So it's just like
we have no idea what we're doing.
2 hours before it starts. By the way, nobody's talking about this, but they had on the list Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah.
And she did not speak last night.
Wonder why. Wonder what happened. What if they're just running along? Because sometimes you do that. They cut speakers if you're running too long.
Speakers.
Yeah, sometimes you do.
The Jewish speaker.
Yeah. Or who knows? Yeah, it could be a dumber. Maybe she didn't get there in time. Maybe there's something else. Who knows? But yeah, that should.
Yeah, right. Sometimes the travel comes up. James Clyburn was kind of interesting to me. I was talking about this last night where I was, you finish Hillary Clinton, who had a ton of energy. I mean, a lot of it last night. And then they went to Jim Clyburn and it just kind of fell off. Jamie Raskin was okay too, but so I've planned these things and you always want to build and crescendo. You don't want these false builds that then drop and then the energy drops. And that's kind of what happened when they went from Clinton to Clyburn to Raskin to Jasmine Crockett. She's the one that got in a fight with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, she was interesting. Yeah,
because of the eyelash comment.
Yeah, and they're trying her out. They want to see how she's.
That's exactly what they were doing
on the national stage. How does she? Yeah, how does she sell? It was interesting. I will say though, I felt that Kamala coming out beforehand and welcoming everybody was a smart move.
I think so. Yeah, because Trump didn't speak. Most of the time, they don't speak.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's a smart move. Because it was 180 degrees different from what you saw at the RNC. Her coming out and welcoming and getting the big pop at the beginning. And the idea being, in professional wrestling parlance, and a friend of the show, Pete Boyles, will love this one, that when you have the person carrying the strap, the championship belt, that's what Kamala has right now for the DNC. She's carrying the championship belt. When the champ opens up the show and gets the crowd excited, that's a cheap pop, but a very, very effective pop from the crowd. That was really smart to come out and have her go, yes, yes. And later on tonight, I'm getting in that ring there and I'm going to beat this. Blah, 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 blah. That's basically what it was. It was a pre-match promo. She did a wonderful job doing it. And it was very intelligent based on the execution because you need the audience to get excited about her. They're going to pop for the champ coming out rather than are they going to pop for this lower mid-card wrestlers. They're going to come out first. So very intelligent to warm the crowd up that way. I thought strategically that was smart. It also gave her the appearance of a hostess, which is very smart.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you on that. I will tell you, speaking of wrestling parlance and all that stuff, the lady who brought out the big Project 2025 book prop and read it as if it was a scary bedtime story for all the kids.
Okay, clever. I like that. Yes.
I thought it was so ridiculous, and they're gonna and then she finishes with, "And tomorrow I'll be back with more scary stories from Project 2025."
And you know why the book was so big? Is because everyone in the crowd needs to see it. It's why the professional wrestling belts and the boxing championships, that's why they're big, but they also are very shiny. Is if you're in the back rows, you got to be able to say, I saw it. So that book had to be big enough so the people in the back could say, I saw the book. It wouldn't make any sense if it was small. So again, very smart use of props. Yeah, that was clever. That was funny.
Well, I was providing commentary yesterday. I was like, light it on fire. Light it on fire. Come on. Not because I want Project 2025 to burn. I think Project 2025 is a great idea. And we've hosted people from Heritage on this, and I love Heritage. But I just wanted to, go so over the top.
Oh, yes.
Come on. Come on. Little lighter fluid.
Yes.
Light it on fire. Burn it. Burn it.
Yes. Do the Jimi Hendrix thing. Put it on the stage and then dance around it. Do that. Come on. If we're going to get theatrical, let's go theatrical.
So they're crazy. Well, we've got a lot to cover, including yesterday they released the Democrat Party platform, which mentions abortion 13 times and God once. But at least they count God once in there. All right. Look, if you're considering selling your home, go with the team that is not only going to give you top-level service, but will also help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble is proven to get more for her sellers because they've ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim. They can sit down and actually show you a list of over 14,700 buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, but isn't it all about how much you're going to put in your pocket after closing? The Empower Home team specializes in making sure you make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at your price, or Gay will buy it. Guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams today. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. In the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to hear from the senior White House correspondent for Salem Media, who was at the DNC last night about all the activities taking place there. We'll continue with full coverage, including Hillary Clinton's speech, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, Joe's daughter, all the stuff that happened yesterday as they had the great farewell swan song for Joe Biden. And my question yesterday to our viewers, by the way, we had a ton of viewers online watching the DNC with me and commenting. Was this Joe Biden's final speech at a convention? Do you think he'll live 4 more years to give another speech? I mean, you don't see Jimmy Carter up there anymore.
No.
Once they reach a certain age and capability, they're not giving speeches. So considering his speech yesterday and how angry he was and what he came across, do you think that was his final speech at a convention? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, live from Chicago for the Democrat National Convention. I'm going to head back downtown later today to see what the crazy pro-Palestinian Marxist left are doing down there. But yesterday, they started these speeches at the DNC convention about 5:15 Central Time, which would have been 4:15. So 4:15 to well past 9 o'clock. So 5+ hours of speeches and activities. And we're going to hear more from the senior White House correspondent for Salem Media in the 8 o'clock hour. But questions for you. We're going to get to Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden. Was there anybody, Billy, you brought this up. Was there anybody that you went, okay, maybe I could get along with that? Or were they all just radical, God-hating Marxists?
Yeah. It was interesting to hear, some of the speeches and think, was there anything that anyone said that it was kind of like, oh, they don't seem as weird as the rest of them? And who was the weirdest person that you heard on the list? What was the weirdest thing you heard last night that came out of someone's mouth? Something you're like, oh, I can't believe they said that in public on stage. And why don't we make that into a campaign ad? But I think that there are some people that maybe, was there anyone that made a little bit of sense last night? I don't know. I'm not sure.
One area that I was really kind of wrestling through was they focused so much on labor, and they had all these labor union leaders, and yet blue collar workers are generally going towards President Trump. So we're at a point now where we have like 10% of the workforce is in unions. At its height, it was 35%. That was like 1950s. So is there a division that's taking place right now between the union bosses and the blue collar workers? I don't know. Give me a call, 303-696-1971. More coming up from the Democrat National Convention live in Chicago. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Greg Clugston, Salem Media, National White House correspondent, next.
is 8 Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, broadcasting live from Chicago at the Democrat National Convention. Spent yesterday about 3.5 hours with the Palestinian protesters, and then went and covered the actual speeches that were taking place in a live broadcast afterwards, providing commentary. So if you want to join me tonight, it's a lot of fun. We hang out. We rag on the radical left and the speeches that are given, and Joe Biden's angry fist pound. He kind of reminded me of Dwight from The Office yesterday. But I'm broadcasting here. Billy's back in Denver, and we're bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, which is one thing that I noticed yesterday. They all talked about how they had risen up, followed the American dream. Seems to confirm my point that America is a pretty great country. But we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Feel free to give us a call. Tell us what you thought of the speeches. 303-696-1971. That's 303-696-1971. Or text us. Billy, I don't have that up. You were so nice to print that number in front of me. Oh, I do. 720-892-6757. 720-892-6757 if you want to join us on the text line. There are lots of text messages coming in as well about last night's speech. Are you proud of the Democrat Party? Is this a party you support? Do you think they have vision for the future of America? And do you like their vision? Or was it a bizarre shouting match about how much they just hated Donald Trump? Give us a call or text message us. Coming up right after the news, Greg Cluxton's going to join us. He's this White House news correspondent for Salem Media. He's going to give us his perspective on what happened yesterday as well. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 69 and sunny, expecting a high of 94 today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
And we must be vigilant tonight because these anti-democratic forces are at work right now in Georgia and all across our country. And the question is, who will heal the land?
That is funny. Senator Raphael Warnock from one of the most corrupt districts in the country in Georgia. Can you say funny? Talking about democracy while they never practice it. It's day 2 of the DNC today, and you'll have to listen to former President Obama tonight if you're at the United Center, along with his wife, Michelle, and second gentleman, Doug Emhoff. How long will Obama talk about those social issues, LGBTQ and everything, all that, and blah, 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 and transition issues, or will that come up at all? I'm sure he'll discuss how important our relationship with Israel is. And last night, one of the worst speeches President Biden has ever given.
The brave service members who gave their lives to this country, he called them suckers and losers. Who in the hell does he think he is? Who does he think he is? They're the ones we're going to bring back. That's not hyperbole. It's because Medicare no longer has to pay those exorbitant prices to the big pharma. It's Republicans, Democrats. We saved democracy in 2020, and now we must save it again in 2024.
Yeah.
We have 1,000 billionaires in America. He's promising a bloodbath if he loses, in his word.
Get him an ice cream cone as soon as possible. Britt Hume has seen a lot of these and heard a lot. How did Biden do?
This is it. And he spent an awful lot of it in almost angrily defending his record in office and making his claims about things he'd achieved and so on. There was not any evidence that he was aware that a great many people in this country had lost confidence in him and had a long time ago. But there he goes. Party relieved, but he's done.
Don't let the door hit you. Former President Trump in Pennsylvania and preaching prosperity for all and energy is vital, not destroying it like Kamala Khan wants to do.
I will end the anti-American energy crusade and terminate Kamala's so-called power plant rule. It's a disaster for our country. Our country will have no jobs by the time these communists and Marxists get rid of, when they destroy the country, probably can never come back either, just so you understand. Too much competition from other countries that are doing it right. We have a lot of competition out there, not only China, we have a lot of other competition.
Hey, in Larimer County this morning near Loveland, a woman allegedly with a gun was shot by deputies after an early morning chase through the county. The sheriff's office said a deputy spotted a vehicle on Highway 402 and East Frontage Road. The woman had a warrant and a revoked license, and she refused to pull over. Several deputies pursued the woman, who eluded them for several miles. She finally stopped 14 miles from where they deployed the tire spikes. She got out of the vehicle with armed with a gun, and two deputies fired at her and struck the woman. No word on her condition. A proposed sales tax increase measure that would raise money for affordable housing in Denver will be on the November ballot. After some negotiating, Denver City Council passed the measure on Monday in a 9-4 vote. If approved by voters, the proposed increase is expected to bring $100 million a year in. In addition to paying for new affordable housing, the money would also go toward existing income qualified housing, rental vouchers, subsidies, down payments, and mortgage assistance. Kroger says they'll invest $1 billion to reduce grocery prices if the proposed merger with Albertsons goes through. The company has also promised a $1 billion investment in employee wages and benefits and $1.3 billion to enhance customers' experience at Albertsons stores. The PGA is in town with the BMW Championship at Castle Pines, first round on Thursday. The Rockies at the Nationals tonight at 4:45. First pitch, 65 in Castle Rock, 64 in Golden, 69 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Monsoonal moisture thins out today, so we're going to be warm with only isolated thunderstorms, low to mid-90s, mid-60s tonight. Low to mid-90s Wednesday, monsoon moisture comes back, thunderstorms increase. Thunderstorm chances are high with highs 80s and low 90s for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
By the way, Billy, you got to thank Adam, because I went to that hot dog place that he recommended, and that was amazing. That's where I had dinner last night.
Oh, excellent. Oh, fantastic.
Adam, you're the man. Great recommendation.
That would actually be kind of cool that on the text messages. So if you give us a text message at 720-892-6757, 720-892-6757, where should Jeff go eat? He's got it. He's got the text in front of him. He can write them down right there. So where should Jeff eat? He's got a few more days in the Windy City. What's the best place? Where do you want him to check out? Yeah, I mean, because he's going to spend all day with people whining and complaining and being mad about stuff. Let's put a smile on his face. So give us a text. Where should Jeff go eat? Right. Yeah, I want to know.
Love to hear from you all. By the way, the text number 720-892-6757. All right. You remember him from the RNC. We're very proud to have him back. Greg Clugston is White House news correspondent from Salem. Greg, you were in the room live yesterday. Give us some insight into what happened last night at the Democrat National Convention. Good morning, Greg.
Morning.
Hey, good morning to you, and great to be in the same city, although we haven't run into each other just yet. But yeah, inside the convention.
Yeah, you and I are having very different experiences. I'm outside with the crazy Marxist protesters interviewing them, and you get to be inside with the little less crazy Marxists. But go ahead, please.
Well, it's interesting. You're just describing right now kind of a tale of two conventions, one outside, one inside. Yeah. What's interesting is how this convention for the Democrats is vastly different from the one that was being planned just 4 or 5 weeks ago. You had Joe Biden expecting to be renominated on Thursday night. Instead, he was giving the keynote on the opening night of the speech of the convention so that he could leave town, and the rest of the week was going to be focused on someone other than Joe Biden. So it was an interesting and delicate balance that convention organizers were walking last night to show appreciation for Joe and his time in public office and winning the presidency 4 years ago, but also at the same time, it was a clear reminder that a lot of the people in that room were ones who were not wanting to see him run for re-election this time around.
I mean, was it? I found it a little unique that they were celebrating his departure. There was a lot of energy around him. First, they all held up kind of like Jill signs when Jill came out, and then all the signs switched to "We Heart Joe." Give us a sense of the energy in the room. It seemed like Democrats are in good spirits, optimistic about their chances for success this fall.
No, there was definite energy in the room. There's no question. There were very few empty seats all the way up to the upper rafters, even early in the evening as the program was getting underway. And by the way, the program was running extremely late last night. I mean, Joe Biden didn't take the stage until about 11:30 East Coast time, well past the prime time hour. And in fact, they had to cut some speeches from the program that had been released on the schedule. Also, singer James Taylor was going to give a performance before the Bidens came out, and he was scratched from the program as well. So they were having a problem with their timetable last night. But what's interesting is around the energy question that you asked and the enthusiasm that's there. It's as if that the Democrats are cheering as loudly as the Republicans were 4 weeks ago for different reasons, obviously. In Milwaukee, you had the GOP crowd really united and really excited about the prospect of running against Joe Biden. And Democrats now are excited and giddy about the prospect of their ticket not including Joe Biden. So it's a tale of two parties, and what a difference a month makes.
Do you think that the RNC, this was something I noticed last night, the DNC focused very heavily on Donald Trump, right? You couldn't get by 2 or 3 sentences without mentioning Donald Trump in just about every speech. Do you remember Joe Biden being mentioned as much in the RNC as Donald Trump is being mentioned in the DNC?
No, that's a good point. I don't think, I think that's exactly how you've laid it out. We on opening night, at least, last night, we certainly heard a lot of the speakers mention Donald Trump. I don't think we heard Joe Biden's name as much. There were some video clips of, showing Joe Biden, tripping on stairs or whatever, a couple of times at the RNC. But there does seem to be a concerted effort, even in Joe Biden's remarks last night. He was kind of his angriest in the speech last night, sharply criticizing Donald Trump, which is not anything new, but it was very apparent and very on stage last night.
No, Greg, if I remember correctly, you've been to a number of these conventions over the years. Tell us how this DNC is like previous conventions and maybe a little different. from your perspective?
Yeah, well, well, first of all, it is different just because of kind of the whirlwind nature of these last few weeks, ever since that Atlanta debate that was so disastrous for Joe Biden. And you had a party that was already a little concerned, maybe more than a little concerned about Joe Biden's campaign, because, for the last year or so, polls showed that even a majority of Democrats thought that Joe Biden was too old to be running for re-election. So there was this underneath the surface, deep-rooted concern about the viability of a Biden campaign, and then it all, rose to the surface coming after that debate, and people starting to come out publicly. What was interesting is when you're talking about the sign waving here at the Democratic convention last night, the holding up the "We Love Joe" signs. Who was down in the front row in the California delegation holding up the "We Love Joe" sign? Nancy Pelosi. And she is seen as being, one of the key architects within the Democratic leadership of publicly and privately urging members of Congress, to make a case to have Joe Biden step aside. And I think there's a little bit of bad blood still between the Biden camp and the Pelosi camp on this, even though the Democrats are doing the best they can to show unity here this week.
I mean, you would almost have to go back to Barack Obama 2016 to get a sense of somebody that has to fare well in order to recognize somebody new, right? So in 16, it was the end of Barack Obama's term, and now it was the coronation of Hillary Clinton. In this case, it's the end of Joe Biden. I can't remember if it was done the same way, in the sense that Barack Obama was on the first night. Can you remember if it was Barack Obama on the first night of the 16 convention?
No, I'd have to go back and look at my notes. I can't recall off the top of my head. My guess is that he was not on the first night.
Yeah.
That'd be my recollection, but I'd have to go and double check. But that just crystallizes this delicate balance that the Democratic Party has had to face this week. How do we show appreciation for the sitting incumbent president of the United States, who did win 4 years prior, but is essentially being forced out by the party and concerns that he would bring down, House and Senate races and all the rest. In fact, Biden did mention in his speech at one point, he said something about all this talk about him being angry about, having to step aside. He said that's not true, but he later told reporters before getting on Air Force One that he hasn't spoken to Nancy Pelosi in the last 4 weeks either. And they've been longtime allies. So there's still something a little bit below the surface there. But now that Biden's speech is over and he's in California now for a week vacation and he's away from the political spotlight of this convention, there's going to be very little focus on Joe Biden, I would guess, going forward.
Yeah, I think
I want to add something in there
Go ahead.
that Greg just threw out there. I thought it was interesting that Biden during the speech and last night, we got to go forward. We're going to win this thing. We're going to win this thing. And I'm going on vacation. Like, oh, you're not coming with us in the march? I just thought that was interesting. It was just a weird juxtaposition. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, he is on vacation. But I think he realizes he had to do that. I think the Democratic Party and the Harris campaign realizes that has to happen. They gave him the spotlight, even though it was way late last night.
Yeah.
A lot of people on the East Coast asleep probably already. But obviously, what was interesting is he spent at least half of his speech talking about the past, meaning his accomplishments, or at least his policies and his approach, especially in his White House term. And then he did mention and do the best he could to say he partnered with Kamala Harris. Of course, there are a lot of issues that are related to the Biden administration that Harris doesn't want to be, really connected to in terms of policy that are going to be problematic as she runs against Donald Trump.
We're talking with Greg Clugston. He's the White House news correspondent for Salem Radio Network, which we're broadcasting from and work for. Greg, now I was outside. My guess, you hear reports of the idea there might be 20, 30,000 protesters. I guess, because I've been in a lot of marches before, 3,000, maybe at the high end, 5,000. Is there any sense from you being in the building that those protests are affecting the DNC at all?
It doesn't seem like the protest, at least on day one, made any real impact at the convention hall. And yes, I've seen the quotes from organizers and police and other officials who say that the expected crowd of protesters and activists seemed to be much smaller yesterday than was anticipated. Obviously, if you're trying to drive a vehicle in the greater Chicago area and you come across the parade route or blocked off area where they're gathering, and you may be inconvenienced, but and there was at least one section of security fencing that was breached in an outer layer before they got to a closer perimeter layer of security that the police had a little bit of a standoff. But overall, generally, it was peaceful. Obviously, their voices are being, their views are being expressed. But on the inside, there was at one point during the Biden speech, there was a little commotion at the back of the arena. Somebody was trying to unfurl a sign that I think said something along the lines of "Stop Aid for Israel," but it was quickly covered up, and people started chanting "We love Joe," and it was a minor little, blip on the primetime schedule last night. But overall, I think the protests are mostly just being heard outside and not much on the inside, at least so far.
Yeah, our theory around this is that they believe the pro-Palestinians and kind of anti-Israel crowd believes that they can kind of pull the Democrat Party off of its support of Israel. But I'll be honest, watching the speeches last night, they seemed relatively resolute in their commitment to Israel and not willing to totally abandon them at all. It doesn't seem like it's working from my perspective, listening to those speeches last night. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that seemed to be the case. I mean, there wasn't a lot of discussion, from the main stage about it, but there were several references. Even Joe Biden at one point said that the protesters on the street have a point in that a lot of innocent people have been killed in this war over the last number of months. That seemed to be a recognition, at least from the president, that, yeah, we understand that there are other voices in the party and there are other views on this war. And those protests are largely being heard and voices being heard outside the convention hall. But it was an acknowledgement inside. And I wasn't sure that the president was going to even touch that subject, but he did briefly last night.
So we know from Blake's reporting that we're likely to see Barack Obama, Michelle Obama tonight. So they went Joe Biden last night, the Obamas tonight. They'll do Tim Walsh on Wednesday, and then Kamala Harris will be the big closer on Thursday. Have you heard anybody else we might hear from tonight?
Yeah, I haven't seen the specific schedule. That comes out about midday. So a couple of hours from now, we should get more of the speakers. But you've hit the highlights of who are going to be on the schedule tonight. You wonder if someone like the singer-songwriter James Taylor is going to, still get a slot somewhere, tonight or this week after getting bumped last night. Who knows? Bill Clinton, of course, is going to be speaking not tonight but tomorrow night. His wife, Hillary Clinton, gave a speech last night that seemed to be well received. Of course, she ran against Donald Trump in 2016 herself. So she was drawing some parallels between her race and the party at that time 8 years ago and what Kamala Harris can do, at least what she hopes Kamala Harris can do here in 2024, and talking about shattering the glass ceiling and all that kind of thing. So the Clintons, the Obamas, obviously they're reaching into the kind of the legendary figures, at least in terms of elected office for the Democratic Party, and they're getting their primetime speaking slots. And Nancy Pelosi and I think Chuck Schumer is on deck tonight as well. I don't know if Pelosi is tonight or tomorrow, but you'll be hearing more of those party leaders as well in the next couple of days.
Oh, goody. They're great speakers. That's wonderful. They're awful.
One of the questions we're wondering is if Jared Polis, the governor of our state, is going to end up there. Have you seen Jared Polis around? Anyone from the Colorado delegation? Doesn't seem like they're making much news right now.
No, I haven't seen him or run into that delegation, but I'll certainly keep my eyes and ears open here over the next couple of days and get back to you if I hear that. But I have not. No.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that because Greg, that we're flyover country. We don't matter to either the DNC or the RNC, but we do have a sitting governor that does have a wandering eye, and he's really, really attracted to this big White House that you might have seen in D.C. He thinks that would be a wonderful place to move. He's shopping. He's looking at zip codes. He's concerned about it. So yeah, we'd be super curious if you see behind the scenes any machinations, or if you see anything. Yeah, because he needs to strategically place himself to possibly be another selection in the future.
Well, it's along those lines. It's always interesting. Every year, the White House will host the National Governors Association when they meet in Washington, and so I was covering that event a few months ago, and all of the governors who attend that meeting are there in the East Room of the White House, and they're mingling around before the event, and all the reporters know that there are at least a half a dozen, maybe a dozen of those governors who are looking at the drapes and checking out the furnishings, and he maybe was one of those as well.
Oh yes, I'm certain he was picking out China patterns. Yes, exactly. Now we talked when you were at the RNC. Greg Cluxton, Salem National White House correspondent. We talked about the fashion, and I want to know from you, at the RNC, you said it was shoes. What are you seeing right now at the DNC? Are they going with shoes? Are they breaking out the Crocs? What are they doing at the DNC as far as clothing? What's the theme?
Yeah, so far, and I'll need to pay more attention to this here in the next 48 hours or so. I haven't seen as much colorful footwear, although there probably a few Crocs, running around the place. I would have to say that the Washington state delegation was very interesting on the floor last night during the speeches. They had these big cowboy hats, essentially. I mean, I used to live in Seattle. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, so it's not known for being a cowboy state. But they had these cowboy hats, but they were illuminated. The rims and all the rest of the hats were illuminated with these flashing lights, and so the entire delegation from Washington had this kind of blinking effect throughout the arena last night. They really stood out. So I'll have to see if there's any sort of matching blinking footwear that might go along with those hats.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Now, one of the speeches that I found actually very compelling, because I was like the lone voice against doctor-assisted suicide becoming legal in the state of Colorado. I remember one reporter being like, is there anybody else we could talk to? I was like, I don't know. I think I'm the only one. Was the ALS guy. He worked for the Obama campaign. I believe his wife was there with him. And as a sanctity of life guy, I appreciated that, right? That the left isn't running out there and just going, things get rough. And, we have these little pods now that you can kill yourself with in Europe. They seem to embrace the idea that we're going to fight for the sanctity of life. And if you missed it, he could hardly speak. He was given maybe a few years to live, and now he was on year 7. I've had a friend die of ALS. I know how horrible that disease could be. I found that to be probably, from my perspective as a conservative, one of the more inspiring moments. Can you talk about that speech? Given he was not a big headliner, but it seemed to be a lot of tears and emotion in the room when he spoke yesterday.
Absolutely. I was there in the room when he and his wife came on stage. And you're right. She, a couple of times during their short presentation, would hold the microphone to his mouth, and he would attempt to speak, but obviously we couldn't understand. And you're right. And then she was, of course, retelling the story of. I think she said that he was diagnosed with ALS the day they brought their second daughter home from the hospital, and his original diagnosis for living was something like 6 months. And that was 7 years ago. So it was a very heartwarming appearance. And you're right. Whether or not they said the word sanctity of life, it was clearly on display during their presentation, which really goes, 180 degrees against, the very strong abortion stance and abortion rights message that we heard from a lot of the speakers and are going to continue to hear through this campaign, through this convention, because Democrats really believe that is a rallying cry for a lot of Democratic voters, and to be honest, a lot of independent voters as well. So that's an issue that Donald Trump has tried to downplay. The abortion issue is one that the Democrats are trying to highlight.
Yeah, and it was interesting how they highlighted it. They brought up at one point 3 people. They kind of emerged out of the shadows one by one to talk about their stories with regards to challenges getting an abortion. But what I found interesting was in each of those cases, Donald Trump believes in exceptions. I don't, except for the health of the mother. But there was one around rape and incest, and Donald Trump would have believed and allowed those abortions to take place. But yet they highlighted stories and tried to portray Donald Trump as if he was an abortion extremist.
Yeah, it's a tricky issue for Trump and Republicans because for years and years they pushed to have, conservative, social, religious conservatives tried to overturn Roe v. Wade. Then, lo and behold, 2 years ago, the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade, and the issue now thrown back to the states. And different states have approached the issue with restrictions or no restrictions or a combination. And so it is a tricky balance, I think, for Donald Trump and Republicans on this issue, because some of the ballot issues that have come even in conservative states, Kansas, Ohio, all the rest, they have gone, the pro-life issue was a loser at the ballot box.
Yeah.
And so it's one of these issues where you're right. He's being portrayed as an extremist, even though he does agree with these exceptions. And that's just one of those, one of those campaign issues that you have to work hard to define your own issue as the opponent is trying to define who you are as well.
Now, I found it particularly interesting that they had a number of speakers yesterday. And by the way, we're talking with Greg Clugston, White House correspondent for Salem Media Group, that they wanted to kind of almost go back to the COVID restrictions. So a lot of the voters that I know weren't happy with the heavy-handed approach that the government brought towards COVID. And yet they were seeming to blame Donald Trump in a number of speeches for there being too many deaths. And I looked the stat up. Under Donald Trump, there were 400,000 deaths that took place. Under Joe Biden, they reached 1 million, so they added 600,000 under Joe Biden's leadership. So more deaths under Joe Biden. But they wanted to really cast Donald Trump as being not heavy-handed enough in his response on COVID. Did you find that interesting at all?
There was as much attention given to COVID, and they even had at least one of these long video segments that put together clips of Trump talking about it when he was giving those daily and nightly briefings during those early weeks and months of the pandemic. Yeah. But yes, I was surprised that they brought that attention, because when you look at when you try to massage numbers, and that's a little bit what they were doing here. I mean, yes, these number of deaths took place from this year to this year and going forward. But, Republicans could take that, around and say, well, if you're going to play with numbers, what about jobs, for example? A lot of the jobs that were created early in the Biden administration were essentially jobs that were coming back online that were lost during the pandemic. So when it comes to numbers between administrations, you can usually, flip those around to your liking. But yes, on the COVID issue, it was an interesting focus last night. I don't know if that will be the only night of the week that gives it that kind of attention. My guess is it might be, but we'll have to see what they do tonight and the rest of the week.
As we wrap here real quick, do you have a sense of what the theme is going to be tonight?
Yeah, it's a bold vision for the future. At least that's how the organizers have described it. So last night was for all people, and they do have a theme each night. Tonight, it's a bold vision for the future. And so obviously it's going to be a turning of the page after Biden last night and moving forward. So more of the focus on Harris and Walz as they try to, continue to not only just contain the energy, but channel the energy that obviously is here at this convention. But even over the last 4 weeks of Harris running this campaign and seeing some improvement in her poll numbers, it's essentially still a tied race. And these battleground states, the 7 or so of them that are likely to turn the election in November, it's still a toss-up between Harris and Trump. So it's going to be a very interesting race going forward, no matter what happens this week at the DNC.
Greg Clugston broadcasting live from the floor of the Democrat National Convention, White House news correspondent for Salem Media Group. Greg, fantastic reporting. We're going to have Greg joining us in the 8 o'clock hour each day this week to recap what happened the night before. Thank you for being our eyes and ears on the floor there and doing such a great job. We appreciate it.
Look forward to it the rest of the week. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Want to talk to you all about QC Kinetics. Pain from arthritis is just awful. Bone on bone, constant pain. It robs you of so much of the stuff you love to do. But there are effective ways to deal with that pain. And I'm not talking about drugs or surgery. Listen, there are exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief. And the place to go? QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics uses cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing property, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. If you're living with chronic pain from arthritis or injury, you need to know that steroids, surgery, and pain pills are no longer your only option. I had a family member get knee surgery. They have to replace the entire knee. And it's going to be 3 months before he's 80% again. You don't want to get to that point where you're having to go under the knife and spending so much time recovering. QC Kinetics uses really cool advanced regenerative medicine to treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you a long-term relief with no downtime. Joel here in the sales office is utilizing QC Kinetics. I was asking him the other day, how's it going? He said he hiked 5 miles up in the mountains with his wife over the weekend. No pain. He hasn't had that type of freedom in years. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your life back with regenerative, restorative cellular treatments for your achy joints. This is the future of medicine. Call for a free consultation now, 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986 with locations in Aurora, Superior, Colorado Springs, and Highlands Ranch. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. News Talk 710 KNUS. Bill Thorpe hanging with you. Jeff will join us in a mere moment. I do want to let you know we are going to be hanging out in public. Yet again, they are putting us out in public. I'm not sure why, but it's going to be a week from today. A week from today, come join us in Parker, Doug's Diner. You can find them between Parker Road and 20 Mile on Main Street. The address 18595 East Main Street in Parker. Doug's Diner does a lot of locally sourced food. There's a number of locations around Colorado. They have crafted some really nice homemade menus. They do all the basics, but they do it with love and they do it with locally sourced products. So come on out, try the huevos rancheros, try the breakfast burritos. I hear there's amazing things they do with pancakes. So come on out. But Doug's Diner, Jeff and I are going to be out in public yet again. That's a week from today. And you can find them between Parker Road and 20 Mile on the north side on Main Street in Parker. So we're going to be there bright and early. Hopefully you'll come out and hang out and cause some problems with us. So, yeah, Jeff, so we've got a couple of callers on the line. Jeff's in Chicago right now. We're going to talk to Johnny in Denver. Johnny, thanks for calling Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. How you doing?
Yeah, I was sitting here laughing at some of the interaction that Jeff had with the protesters. And I reminisce about something that Kamala said, that she loves yellow buses. And I thought like a great psyop would be is to get ABC or one of those other channels to take a camera crew down, get on the yellow bus and go into the black community and get these poor black women who don't have IDs, because it wouldn't work if it was poor black guys, because the women is the ones that really back them, and bring them to the convention and show them going through the line, going into the convention center, and no one showing an ID, because they claim that poor black people
have no ideas. Yeah,
they have no idea.
Right. They can do just about anything else. They can buy alcohol. They can get on an airplane, but you can't vote. No, I've always felt, and it's John. Is that right, Billy?
Johnny, yeah. Yep.
Johnny, I've always felt like that's just one of those bigotry of low expectations.
That's a good point.
Where it's like everybody else can do it, but you because of your race can't. That's just weird to me. So, Johnny, what did you think of last night? What did you think of the speeches?
I'm only going to catch the excerpts because it's hard for me to listen to any of those people hearing all the propaganda.
I mean, Joe Biden said things that were just provably false.
Everything. Oh, man.
Provably false. The idea that Donald Trump said there are good people on both sides as it relates to the white supremacists. That's a total miscontextualization of his speech. He was very clear in condemning the white supremacists. He did so over and over again. What he was talking about was the debate over whether or not we should be tearing down monuments, which I actually... Go ahead.
Yeah. What I did was, Larry Elder that you have on at 4 o'clock, he has a program on, so I send those shows that shows the full speech and then the lie on the full speech. I send those to my Democratic family because they're not going to hear that other part. They're only going to hear Joe Biden.
Does it change their minds at all?
I'm sending them, but nobody's saying anything.
Johnny, keep sending them. Keep sending them. Well, I appreciate it. Watch the speeches tonight, too, if you can tolerate it, and let me know what you think in the morning. By the way, throughout the DNC, I'll be live broadcasting on the 710 KNUS, YouTube, Rumble, X account, as well as my own personal. And so if you want to come, just watch the speeches. We put the speeches up there, and then we provide commentary and even fact check throughout to the best of our abilities, quickly as we can. We start that at about 5 o'clock Mountain Time as the speeches kick off. So tune in and you can hang out with me. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, we'll continue this and we'll get to Marty in just a second. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go to the phone lines. Marty, Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Morning.
Hey, guys, great stuff, of course, being on scene, giving us the feel. I will say this. If you were moved or inspired by the DNC last night, opening night, you either need a mental health check or an IQ test, because there's nothing in there for the prosperity of our children. I hear anti-children. I hear abortion. And then I don't know about you guys, and even you, Billy, I cannot stand another Democrat telling me that they're fighting for the democracy. And then if I hear another politician take credit for lowering the price of insulin down for seniors, that is like the biggest who gives a crap issue in America. Most of that insulin is for type 2 diabetes, which people give themselves. So excuse me, Billy, what did you pull out of there that took an on the fencer and said, okay, this is my ticket. I'm going to step into this abyss known as the Democratic Party.
So do you think it's a bad idea that they lowered the price of insulin? Is that what you're saying?
Where's the victory?
The fact
Where's the victory for me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
For me.
Okay, sorry, Marty. I didn't know this was only about you. So you're mad that nobody at the DNC addressed Marty. So if they got up there and they said, here, Marty, here's a pile of kittens and here's a bag of money, then you'd be excited about it, right? That's what you're saying?
Well,
I'm having a hard time following you, man.
I want to hear messaging that speaks to 40-year-old white guys with kids in a blue-collar capacity saying, how are we going to pass this dream on to our little ones when they're being corrupt? So I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah, what if your wife was on insulin? What if she had diabetes? What happens then, man?
Okay, so
that would help you, right? That would help you, right? Correct?
I guess, but now I'm in a special class of people that have diseased themselves. We're talking about, you understand that type 2 diabetes is 90% of the insulin. Type 2 diabetes, you give that to yourself. You understand that, right? That's not my problem, because you choose to eat like that for your whole life. And now I'm supposed to vote that party in because they're going to lower the price of prescription drugs. The idea is that you're not on prescription drugs. So
you just want them punished. I get it. So you want them punished based on that. You disagree with their decisions, and so we should punish them. We should make it more difficult for them to live. And we have people that self-ration their insulin and end up passing away for it. So you're taking the Ebenezer Scrooge. You're just like, well, they just need to die and decrease the surplus population. That would make you happier. Yes, that's exactly what you said.
What it all is that choice,
just
that
what you said.
Cumulative choice. But listen, Billy, though, the accumulative choice, and bad choices of eating fast food and doing whatever they're doing, it has now caught up to them. Why should they not pay the price? Why am I subsidizing that? Why am I in?
Honestly, it's weird to hear someone that oftentimes will say that we are a Judeo-Christian society say, I don't want to care for the people that are, that have less. That's cool, man. But I appreciate
We'll continue with the phone calls and conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, August 20th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, broadcasting live from Chicago in the Democrat National Convention. It's been a wild ride. Billy's back in Denver. I'm going to head back downtown right after the show and see what the pro-Hamas protesters are up to today, which yesterday they were full of just about every vitriolic idea you could have towards the quote-unquote oppressors. So we'll go have a fun time talking to them. Like I mentioned earlier, these are the true believers. These are the ones that got on an airplane or a car or hitchhiked or walked up here to the DNC in order to make sure their voices were heard outside. So we'll continue to cover that, plus live coverage of the speeches. So if you go to 710 KNUS during the YouTube or the YouTube channel, Rumble, X, any of those, at about 5 o'clock Mountain Time ish, we'll kick that off, cover the speeches tonight. Barack Obama, Michelle Obama scheduled to speak. So you can join the conversation. Would love for you to be a part of that. We've got a great hour coming up. Want to hear your thoughts on last night's speeches. Marty just wrapped up the last hour telling us why is he, as a taxpayer, subsidizing these insulin shots that the Democrats are all bragging about. The only thing I point out in that issue is that started with Donald Trump. Now expanded under Joe Biden, but that idea of capping started under Donald Trump. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app, or if you need to type it in manually, it's 720-892-6757, 720-892-6757. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. Glad you're having some fun in Chicago, Jeff. 75 and sunny outside, expecting a high of 94 today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
You know, we have 1,000 billionaires in America. He's promising a bloodbath if he loses, in his words.
Angry Joe at the DNC. Day 2 is today, and as usual, the Democrats were late in day 1, behind schedule on everything, but Kamala Khan surprised the crowd early.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. It is so good to be with everyone this evening in this hall and everyone at home. This is going to be a great week.
Good evening. She introduced President Biden after she said good evening a couple of times. Let's hear that great speech from Biden.
The brave service members who gave their lives to this country, he called them suckers and losers. Who in the hell does he think he is? Who does he think he is? They're the ones we're going to bring back. That's not hyperbole. It's because Medicare no longer has to pay those exorbitant prices to the big pharma. It's Republicans, Democrats. We saved democracy in 2020, and now we must save it again in 2024. You know, we have 1,000 billionaires in America. He's promising a bloodbath if he loses, in his words.
That was after 11:30 at night. Man, almost midnight when all that was taking place. Jake Tapper on CNN was fired up about what he saw and heard. Not really.
To be honest, on the East Coast, the second day of the Democratic National Convention, as I'm not the first one to observe.
It is late, which is
rather late.
Very notable, I think,
It's really
for
late.
a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it is fair to say that the Republicans had a tighter ship.
True. Former President Trump in Pennsylvania.
We will unleash explosive economic growth and vast new prosperity for all of our citizens. We will put more money into your pockets and create millions and millions of new jobs. We're going to do it like nobody else. has ever been able to do it. Our plan will massively cut taxes, unlock American energy, slash regulations, big factor, crack down on trade cheaters and stop outsourcing, rebuild our industrial base and bring back those beautiful words, made in the USA.
And then there's this Michigan State Senator Mallory McMorrow brings out a massive Project 2025 book to slam Trump at the DNC. Despite Trump not having anything to do with the project, she is a circus clown.
Hello! I'm Michigan State Senator Mallory McMorrow, and this is Project 2025.
Nice prop. Like it was a Dr. Seuss book or something.
Right. So this is one of the funnier moments because I love Project 2025 and Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
Everything they do. I think they're great people. And I was sitting there going, light it on fire. Burn it, burn it, burn it, fire, fire, fire. Because it was so over the top. I was like, you know, they're just going to take a little bit of lighter fluid and burn it, and then I'll chant around it. Burn 2025. Burn.
Put the cross signs in front of it. Oh, man. Okay, so the reason I wanted to use it, and Billy will appreciate this, I can't stand this. She yells at the crowd, hello, and she's a centimeter from the mic. Here, listen.
Hello,
lady, you don't have to be eating the mic and yelling in it. Yeah, that was
so. I think they're going to do this every night. I'm not kidding. I think it's like scary bedtime stories from Project 2025. This is the gimmick that they have. They're going to trot out this book. And they're going to go, little boys and girls, do you know that the federal government will not have as much power if Donald Trump is elected and we can't do all the good oppression that we'd like to do of those that we disagree with? I know.
Those horrible Christians.
Those nightmares will dance in your head, little children, while you sleep tonight. That was everything that they're trying. It was such a circus, Blake.
Oh, I can imagine. In the last page, they will take, steal, and rip off your democracy. There will be no democracy for any of you children.
Well, they came up with something, and I do want to talk about this hour, called the Trump abortion ban. That was an actual phrase used last night, and I'm like, he never banned any abortion. What are you talking about? He sent it to the states to allow the states to decide on this. The Trump abortion ban?
Whatever.
Give me a break. Yeah, it's all just fear mongering.
Yeah, it is. It's all fake. In Larimer County this morning near Loveland, this wasn't fake. A woman allegedly with a gun was shot by deputies after an early morning chase through the county. The sheriff's office said the deputy spotted a vehicle on Highway 402 and East Frontage Road. The woman had a warrant and a revoked license, and she refused to pull over. Several deputies pursued the woman, who eluded them for several miles. She was traveling over 100 miles per hour at some points of the chase. She finally stopped 14 miles from where they deployed tire spikes. She got out of the vehicle armed with a gun, and two deputies fired and struck the woman. No word on her condition. Hey, 99-year-old CU Buffs superfan Peggy Copham has become the first fan to secure an NIL deal. She'll be the face of Blenders Eyewear's newest sunglasses sleeve product. They feature her signature gold pom-poms. Her twin sister used to cheer with her at all CU basketball and football games. I think she passed away in 2020, I believe. She's been going to CU football and basketball games for 8 decades. Good for her. Warriors head coach Steve Kerr at the DNC. And let's see, what did he have to say?
I know very well that speaking out about politics these days comes with risks.
Not for you. You do it all the time. everyone cheers you on. You're on the left. You're a Democrat, so you don't have any risk. You will not lose your job. You won't get fired. You won't get booed. People will cheer you on in the NBA.
I can see the shut up and whistle tweets being fired off as we speak.
Oh, wow. That's the worst you're gonna receive. So he goes on and on, rips Donald Trump. All right, PGA in town, the BMW Championship at Castle Pines, first round Thursday. By the way, Steve Kerr was there, I'm sure, because he was a Chicago Bull. He benefited off of the greatness of Michael Jordan. Yes.
I when I watched it, I thought that same thing. I was like, you played in the same stadium at the same time as Michael Jordan, and nobody here remembers you.
Well, I will say they remember. He was a very good player and a good player.
You give him too much credit. It was Jordan and Pippen, baby, and maybe a little bit of Rodman.
Kerr had a lot to do with it. I'm not going to take that away from him.
Oh my God, you're too nice, too nice, Blake.
But he's an idiot. I could separate the two. I could definitely separate.
You're a better man than he is.
Yeah, well, you got that right. Rockies at the Nationals tonight at 4:45. 73 in Englewood, 71 in Broomfield, 75 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Jeff will have a great day in Chi-Town today on Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Monsoonal moisture thins out today, so we're going to be warm with only isolated thunderstorms, low to mid-90s, mid-60s tonight. Low to mid-90s Wednesday, monsoon moisture comes back, thunderstorms increase. Thunderstorm chances are high with highs 80s and low 90s for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, interesting time in Chicago. I can't say it's a great time. It's a little weird. There's a lot of progressives and leftists here. This is their big gathering place, and I just work my way through them, asking questions. They don't smell good. That is a stereotype, Billy. That is absolutely 100% true.
Not a lot of patchouli oil. No.
I think there's longer times in between showers than there should be.
Yeah,
So
probably. They're conserving water. That's what they're doing.
they're doing something.
Yeah.
All right. And they smoke a lot. There's not cigarettes. The wacky tobacco.
Yeah,
So it smells like the skunks around all the time. Let's go to Tom, Denver. Tom, did you watch the DNC first night last night?
I couldn't bring myself to do it.
I get it. It's hard. Why is that?
Oh, it's just, for years we've been watching them lie and do these constant tribunals over Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And during that period that he was in office, all they did was have committees to try to hang him. And they did not do anything to benefit this country. They were just sitting back. They meet in those halls and collect taxpayer money. And all you could, my visual in my head is Jerry Nadler sitting back in that thing day after day after day, all of them. And, in
Tom,
my opinion,
I do have a question for you. They led last night. Part of the language was prosecutor versus felon. That Kamala Harris, her first 5 words walking in to every courtroom was Kamala Harris for the people. She's a tough prosecutor against a felon who has cheated everybody his entire life. You think that connects with the people?
Not with the Republicans. They're all hit to that. If I recall these 32, 34 counts of if they would have been processed way back when it happened, it's my understanding that they just would have been a misdemeanor and they should have been counted as one.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was completely exaggerated in order to try to get to felonies. Even I think reasonable people recognize that. But, they're trying to reach middle of the road people that Kamala Harris is tough prosecutor and Donald Trump is they keep saying is only out for himself. My question is, do you think that's effective at reaching at least independents and moderates who could swing on this issue?
Well, I think if they're stoners, and they're just, completely oblivious. But, what I was thinking is that whatever Trump does when he throws his soirees is to have a big oversized scrolling screen with his accomplishments.
Yeah.
And then next to it, it could be an 8x12 page for hers. You know what I mean?
Well,
But
Tom,
he needs,
go ahead. Finish up there.
Okay. And just one other visual to parlay off of what you were saying about lighting the 2025 book on fire.
Right.
But it would have been great if Nancy come up out of that front seat and pulled off her suit coat, and underneath it be a Gold's Gym oversized tank top. And once it's
And
on
rip it
fire,
off.
rip it in half. Like,
Yeah, do a Hulk Hogan.
I will tell you, so far, Republicans have been more entertaining than the Democrats have. It was almost 5 hours of just speech after speech after speech. Tom, I appreciate it. Tune in tonight. At least hang out with me, and I'll make it more bearable for you. We'll do a live broadcast and commentary as the speeches go on the 710K and US YouTube page, X or Rumble or Facebook as well. Let's go to Lewis, Denver. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710K and US. Good morning, Lewis.
Morning.
Good morning. I'm in Aurora, not Denver. Okay. I'm in the city on the hill. Okay.
Well, I love how you make that distinction because it's one to be made. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Well, listen, Billy, my sister-in-law who lives with me is 83 years old. She's on insulin, and I'm not willing to sacrifice this nation or kill more babies for her to have a lower cost in insulin. Do you understand that? Because these people, I turned it off. As soon as this guy started opening his mouth, the first one about abortion, I said, these people are sick. They're evil, pure evil, Billy. I don't care about the insulin when they're killing babies up to the point of birth and a little bit beyond. I don't want to hear about that.
Is it an either or choice? I mean, couldn't we also lower insulin cost and get to where you want to be on abortion as well? I'm just curious why it's an either or choice. No, we can't.
Not with Billy, not with these people, the Democrats. Come on, give me a break. They are so satanically driven. They're not going to change. They're not going to change concerning abortion. They want it all the way. They want it and mutilating kids, telling 5 years old, hey, I don't think you're a boy. I think you're a girl. And then this Vice President Pitt putting tampons in boys' restroom. Come on, Billy. These people are not going to change.
Lewis, I
They're
understand
not going to change.
Yeah, Lewis, but that statement about the vice presidential candidate putting tampons in boys' bathroom is inaccurate. That's not actually what he did. And that's been used.
What did he do? What did he do?
What he did is he signed a bill that, again, had to pass through the legislature. He's not the king. Had to pass through the legislature. And what it did is it made feminine hygiene products available inside the public schools. And the school districts were directed to implement that as they see fit. There are a few schools I have found out that do have those products available in the boys' bathrooms, but the two largest school districts in Minnesota do not have them in any boys' bathroom. And so they were made available where the school thought fit based on their community. And I find it weird that I have people that identify with the Republican Party that talk about individual personal liberty, and what Tim Walz did, whether you agree with him or disagree with him, he allowed them to choose the schools. But somehow that's the wrong thing. It's just weird for me to hear that.
It is the wrong thing to put feminine items in boys' restroom. Come on, give me a break.
But he didn't do that. But he didn't do that.
No, I want to correct this because I think you're misreading that. Look, because we did the same thing in Colorado. They, in the language of the bill, they specifically, purposely made it gender neutral so that they could put these in men's bathrooms. It's not like he dictated it and said, we must in every bathroom put these, but the idea that it was just kind of a general distribution and the schools could choose. No. It was deliberate in that it was gender neutral language as well. That was purposeful in his language.
Then why does the largest school district in Minnesota say they don't have them in any of the boys' bathrooms? If you say that it's
right,
mandated,
they could. But
yes,
I mean,
that's exactly what I said.
But the idea that he mandated it in all of them, you're right, Billy. But the idea that this was just a general distribution without specifically writing into the bill that it was gender neutral so that it could be put in boys' bathrooms, that doesn't make him totally innocent.
But what I'm hearing
is culpable.
But what I'm hearing is both of you are mad about the choice. That's weird.
No, we're mad about the deliberate effort to make this gender neutral so that it could be in boys' bathrooms.
But again, choice. That's what you're. That's the core. That's what you're mad about. The core is you're mad.
No, they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing.
I know, but any one of the schools can choose to do it or not do it. That's the weird part about this.
And they have the permission to do it because of the governor.
Yeah.
They have the permission to do it because of the governor.
Yeah, more choice. That's a weird thing for you guys to be arguing against. It's exactly what you're arguing against. Yes, it is.
It's not.
What?
Go ahead, Lewis.
Well, that should have never taken place. Never in our nation. Girls are girls, boys are boys. And boys do not use feminine items. Okay? And come on, Billy, that should have never taken place. They should have kept all that in a girls' restroom, nothing to do with the boys.
Lewis, I don't think the government should be paying for feminine hygiene products at all in any bathroom, whether it's girls or boys. So that's in addition to the idea that Tim Walz has now given these school districts permission to put them in boys' bathrooms, and they're paid for by the state. But no, the government should not be paying for these. The nurses always have a few just in case they need it. But this is not an exorbitant expense that the government needs to take on. But Lewis, I do want to agree with you on this. As somebody who is at their core most policy oriented, number one priority for me is the sanctity of life. I found last night disgusting. Right. I found last night totally disgusting. It was something that they celebrated. Didn't just permit. We are so far past rare, safe, and legal. We are into the world of shout your abortion, celebrate your abortion. We are the party that's going to allow you to do it. I thought it was gross, disgusting, and heartbreaking to see just about every politician get up there and mention that yesterday.
That's right. That's why I turned it off. I said, I'm going to bed. Forget this. These people are out to kill more babies. That's all they want. Promote that? No way. And so you're going to trade off lower insulin prices so you can have your abortion? No, give me a break, Billy. No way.
Well,
no way.
The nice part about this, Lewis, is that if Donald Trump wins, you still get to keep your low insulin at the same time. So at the same time, and you get the abortion rules that you want as well. So again, this is the idea is where we come back to the beginning of it, and I appreciate the phone call. Is the starting point is that you made it an either or choice, and I disagree. I don't think it's an either or choice. I think we can do both. We could accomplish what Lewis wants to on abortion, and we can also lower insulin prices. It's not an either or choice. He created a false dilemma, but I appreciate the call, Lewis. Yeah. We've got a few more callers, but I'll talk to you in a sec.
Okay. Look, everyone always asks, what makes advanced hair restoration different? Allow me to share, along with some details on, and get this, their once-a-year summer savings event. This is going to end here September 1st, so you got to get on it. First off, Advanced Hair stands by the results, and the before and afters are second to none. With Advanced Hair, your own natural hair is guaranteed to grow. Secondly, Advanced Hair combines top-rated physicians with modern technology, creating a concierge quality experience that's hard to find elsewhere. Lastly, Advanced Hair's Advanced FUE begins regrowing your own natural hair the very next day. It's quick, it's simple, and it's easy. I had a family member get their hair done with Advanced Hair, and they look great. It brought back youthfulness to them and improved their energy, and they're doing great as a result of it. Now, if you have a flexible schedule this summer and you've been waiting for that special savings opportunity, it's here. Advanced Hair's summer savings event will get you the most hair for your dollar. It's their best offer ever. For details and to schedule your free consultation, call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. One-day treatment, life-changing results. Your new hair is guaranteed to grow. Before and afters at advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. Billy, who do we have next?
We've got Nick from Denver joining us.
Nick, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Hey, morning, Nick. Nick should be there. Okay, talk amongst yourselves, or maybe we can go to a break here and I'll figure out Nick.
All right. Well, while we're waiting for him, I do want to talk to you all about Rocky Mountain Dental Group. I've gotten to know Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group. This guy is fantastic. And believe me, with all the work I've had done with my teeth, I know good dentists. I was not born with good enamel and receding gums and all that stuff. So I spent a lot of time at the dentist. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. See for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one that I love and totally agree with. I've been going there for over 20 years. Dr. Mike and his entire staff are outstanding. I like the fact that the same person always cleans my teeth. If you need an awesome dentist, Dr. Mike is your guy. If your gums are receding, it's critical to address this issue promptly. Dr. Mike is a top-tier expert in the Chow pinhole surgical technique. This method requires no cutting, no sutures, virtually no downtime. The procedure involves just making a small hole in the tissue and gently repositioning the gums. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Mike to discover the benefits of this revolutionary procedure. Call 303-233-1335 or visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com to book your free consultation today. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. I do want to thank Branch Planning for helping us get out here. Absolutely wonderful people. I strongly recommend them when it comes to your financial planning services. Let's go to the phone lines. I think we got Nick back. Nick, you with the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Thanks for taking my call. I usually, not usually, but Monday through Friday, I work from like 4 to 9 o'clock. So I have a good excuse why I didn't have to listen to that nonsense of the Democratic Party. However, long story short, it is a fact that there are a lot of very low information voters in this country, 100%. And they have no clue on how an economy, an effective economy works. And what I would like to see in my dreams is for Donald Trump to swallow his ego and just stick to the facts and stop insulting people or getting off tangent or going off on the rails. I just want him to stick to the issue, explain, which he can in 5 minutes or less, how a real free market works and why history has shown it is far superior to anything else, and how every socialistic government-controlled economy has failed miserably. That's what I'd like to see.
Nick, you are 110% right. The biggest weakness right now is the fact that Donald Trump can't stay on message, and his strongest message is, hang on a sec, how are you going to fix the economy you broke? That's the message, and that will win, but he can't stay disciplined enough right now. You're right on, Nick. I agree.
And, the devil is in the details, but here are the details. You look at history, every socialistic experiment has failed miserably, and it's cost millions of people their lives. The free market needs to be explained in very simplistic terms so a 4-year-old dog could understand it. Period.
You're right, Nick. The idea is they need to explain the idea that a free market and the capitalist system is the easiest, most efficient way to have your needs met. A planned economy can't and never will. That's the discussion.
I don't know. I talked to a communist yesterday that thinks China's doing great. So
Yeah.
I should have asked him if he wanted to switch. I'm sure there's a Chinese peasant that would love to come to this country.
There'd be tons that'd love to come here. We can get a 2-for-1 on that one.
Could go back there.
Absolutely.
Nick, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Let's go to Linda. Linda, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Linda.
Morning.
Good morning. Anyway, I think, they say, save a chicken, abort a baby, and I just hate it because they don't know what these babies go through when they're being aborted, and the pain that go through, it just upsets me, something terrible,
It's and Linda, to your point, there's this sanitization that takes place when they talk about it as it's a freedom, it's a choice, all that stuff. When you get into the actual procedure of either starving a baby of its nutrients through the abortion pill, crushing its skull during a first trimester abortion, injecting its heart directly during a third trimester abortion, ripping it limb from limb in a second trimester abortion, it is a grotesque practice that results in the execution of an innocent human being that was totally lost yesterday, and they have now pivoted to this point of celebrating it. It was a gut punch. It was very hard for me to watch last night.
Oh my God, this really upsets me. I know one baby, it was born full term, and she wanted that baby just to lay there and die and don't touch it. That was her choice, Isn't that? Honest to God, this upsets me so bad you can't believe it, And I just feel so sorry for those babies. They're crying,
Linda, I gotta ask you though, especially for young women, this is a place of great freedom and opportunity that the Democrat Party is messaging to them. Why isn't the pro-life message connecting primarily with young women right now?
Because they don't care, They have no compassion. Just get rid of it. They don't realize what's taking place, And oh God, I had this one girl I worked with, and she used abortion as birth control, And I just, oh God, they see what those babies go through when they're shot full of stuff in their head, And oh my God, it just upsets me so bad because I mean, those little tiny babies are so innocent. I love babies. I love kids. You know what I mean? They're precious. They're God's gift to us. You know, their presence is a present to us. You know.
Now, Linda, yesterday, Planned Parenthood is reporting they performed 10 abortions outside the Democrat National Convention. Now, this isn't official from the Democrat Party, but Planned Parenthood brought up a bus and they did 10 vasectomies and they provided medication for 10 medical abortions yesterday. What are your thoughts on the Democrat Party having that type of bus right outside of the DNC?
Oh my God! I'll tell you what. I think they're nasty, vile, and gross. And I'll tell you what. I don't think there's no room for God in their life, or love and peace and joy. Kill a chicken. Abort a baby. Save a chicken. Abort a baby. Sons of and I am really upset because if they would really see what those little babies go through, I mean the pain and that, oh my God, it just tears me up.
Well, Linda, I appreciate the call.
Yeah,
thanks so much. Thanks for your commitment to the sanctity of life as well. I imagine that will continue to be a theme over and over and over again because electorally it's working.
Yeah, it is working. And right now it is something that helps the Democrats. And I agree with a lot of what both you and Linda say about abortion. And my big argument and where I think the Democrats fail in their plank is they're not talking about making things better for the expecting parent. That would be a much stronger message to say, we want to support the women that want to make the choice to keep the baby, and we need to do it by X, Y, and Z. Because, I've said this a number of times on our show, that when our society says because a woman takes time off from her career, that she now gets paid less in perpetuity, that's a disincentive to have any children. If that's how our workforce is treating mothers, what do we expect? We've told them they are less valuable based on the paycheck you're gonna bring home. We need to fix things like that, and people will make different choices. But when you say we're gonna relegate you to make less money doing the same job as a guy because you brought new life into this world, there's something wrong. And guess what? And there's something wrong with my back too. But
good. Yeah. Tell us about Balance Well Space.
Yeah, I got to talk about Balance Well Space. We'll get into this in a sec. Hey, I've got so many things wrong with me. I mean, not just mental. I have so many personal physical injuries that I accumulated over a lifetime of having an underdeveloped sense of fear, as my dad always said. But I have found an amazing medical team at Balance Well Space that are doing remarkable things, taking away my pain and letting me live my life the way that I want to. It's crazy to think about the things that I get to do now I wasn't doing just 5 months ago. Balance Well Space is integrative medicine. They've set up a brand new office in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2, huge parking lot, plenty of shady trees, easy to find. If you can find the Officers Club, you can find Balance Well Space. They're just almost right across the street. Check them out at balancewellspace.com. I mentioned the phrase integrative medicine. What does that mean? It means they do chiropractic, neuropathy, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and a long list. I don't have time to read right now. It would take me minutes to go through everything, plus a number of advanced modalities. There was someone I was in the office the other day that was getting treatment for her neuropathy. She said the tingling, the pain, the weakness is nearly gone. She said she'd never thought that she would be able to move around like this anymore. I'm doing the same thing with my back and the stupid bum shoulder that I broke more than 25 years ago. I'm now getting amazing sleep because I can sleep on that shoulder. Never used to do it before. I was deep cleaning my car a couple of weekends ago. That never would have happened with my old back. It would have been pain. It would have been slow. I wasn't even concerned about it. My wife found me squatting on the ground playing with the cats the other day. And she's like, I haven't seen you in that position in years, because I couldn't get down onto the floor that way. That's the difference that Balance Well Space is making in my life. They are allowing me to live my life like I want to. And I want them to allow you to live the way you do as well. You go to them, you contact them at balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. They poke, they prod, they ask you questions about what's hurting you. They put together a custom pain plan, and then they go to work. They put together what is going to be ailing you and then how they can get you better. Every couple of weeks, they check in with you. You get a reevaluation and the team connects. When's the last time all of your doctors talked about you and your treatment plan? It's never. They don't know each other. But at Balance Wealth Space, they're all working together, and it's a one-stop shop. I go to one appointment, and I get everything done to me. I do a slight rehab workout, and then we start doing some traction. Maybe it's on my back. Maybe it's on my knee. Then there's a little bit either maybe wave therapy. Maybe it's trigger point injections. Then we do some chiropractic work. But again, I'm in and out in an hour. That would take me hours and hours over the course of a week because I'd be going to so many different appointments. I don't have that drive time. BalanceWellSpace.com. Talk to Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, the team that is making a difference in my life, because I want them to change your life the way they're changing mine. Check them out today. BalanceWellSpace.com. BalanceWellSpace.com.
Great to hear, Bill, that you're getting that care that you need. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Having a fantastic time here in Chicago. We're going to be covering all the speeches tonight. Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, they're up tonight. Wednesday, Tim Walz. Thursday, Kamala Harris. We've had a fantastic discussion about Joe Biden's old man rant that took place last night. It was so late. I wonder if they'll have to adjust. They were like an hour and a half off, and you put the president of the United States at like 11:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh yeah. There was part of me though that's thinking, are they trying to hide him? Because as soon, I didn't stay up late enough to watch him, but as soon as I heard some of the clips and the speeches and pieces that Blake Olson News Department has been playing and elsewhere, for me, it was immediately a reminder of, oh yeah, that's why. Ugh, that's why he had to leave. It was just the speech patterns, what he was talking about. He went back to the grievances with Trump. I was like, oh yeah. It's almost like when you have something in the fridge that's spoiled and you sort of forget about it for a sec and you come back and you're like, oh God, why didn't I throw that away? It's exactly what it was. I had that bad taste in my mouth after that. Yeah.
So he wrapped up last night, and now the Democrats are ready to move on. But big questions remain. When's Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, or even Jared Polis going to speak? And if Jared doesn't, is he on the outs? This is something I found fascinating about the fact that our Democrats, our statewide Democrats, never seem to be able to make the leap to the national level.
No, it's very hard.
John Hickenlooper didn't. Michael Bennett didn't. So we're keeping an eagle eye out for Jared Polis. Later today, I'm going to head down, see what our pro-Palestinian protesters are up to. Spent about 3 hours with them yesterday. At the first part of the show, I detailed what that whole experience was like. So you can go back and listen on the podcast at 710 KNUS, and we'll see what they're up to today. Are they getting more feisty?
Yeah.
Is it growing? Is there more anger now?
Yeah. Are they just behaving themselves early on, and then they're going to get crazy? Do they... When the spotlight grows on Wednesday and Thursday, is that the time they want to get their attention? That this is kind of lulling you into a false sense of security? I'm curious.
It was interesting. A big police presence here. And I still would like to point out that the Democrats have built an 8-foot steel wall supported by concrete barriers to protect them. Lots of police.
You need to be near that wall, and you need to just film yourself declaring you want amnesty. You need to do that for me.
I know.
It would make me happy.
Some of the best comments were, just climb over it, man.
Exactly.
There's free health care,
exactly.
housing, and debit cards waiting for you on the other side, and a bus ticket wherever you'd like to go. That's how I could get back to Denver.
Exactly. Where's the free bus ticket? Start walking around.
Take the bus ticket back there. So there's a whole lot to cover. I want to especially thank Branch Planning for helping us sponsor this entire trip. Great people to help with your financial services planning. So we'll continue to cover all of this. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. A week from today, come join us at Doug's Diner. We're going to be broadcasting live. Parker Road. It's right between, it's on Main Street in Parker, between Parker and 20 Mile Road. We'll see you there next Tuesday. Have a good day.